We are live. We are recording. Phone lines are open. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome, everybody, to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for June 4th, 2024. We have 4 scheduled public hearings this evening. Let's get into it. The first public hearing is Corey Manson at 28 16th Street in Springs, Suffolk tax map number 300-78-2-4.2. The size and location is 22,600 square feet at 28 16th Street in Kingstown Park, Section 1, lots 41 through 50, and part of 16th Street in Block 17, map number 499. Filed November 16th, 1911. The description is to allow a hot tub and associated deck to remain within side yard setbacks. We've sought 2 variances of 5 foot and 4.6 feet pursuant to 255-1110 of the East Hampton Town Code are required to allow the hot tub and associated decking to remain 15 feet and 15.4 feet from the side yard lot line where 20 feet is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
I reviewed the affidavit of service and posting. Everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this application.
I think Denise, Vice Chair, has this application.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Deline. This property is located on the west side of 16th Street in Springs, and as you can see, it was properly noticed. Next, please. I'm actually standing on 16th Street, looking at the front of the house and the stone gravel driveway. Next, please. Okay. This is just the surrounding area. This is a house that also exists on 16th Street, just to give you an idea of the neighborhood. Next, please, Morgan. Another house on 16th Street. Next, please. And this is another house. I believe it's across the street from the subject property. Next, please. Again, the gravel driveway, as we go toward the end of this driveway, we'll be approaching what the application is before us for tonight. Next, please. This is I don't know, it appears to be just another entrance into the house. I don't know if it's a separate apartment. I'm not really sure. Next, please. This is the entranceway to the deck that we are actually talking about. Beyond this fence or wall is the hot tub in question tonight. Next, please. This is a shower enclosure that is on the deck. Next, please. This is a very good picture because it actually shows the deck in question, and this would be facing the west side. As you can see, there's like a wall behind the hot tub, but I believe that is A or B jurisdiction, and there is fencing around the hot tub, and the steps that you see lead up to the hot tub. So that's what is before us tonight. Next, please, Morgan. This is just the cover of the hot tub. I was trying to get a dimensional visual of the wall behind it. Next, please. Just the deck that leads up to the hot tub. Next, please. This is also the backyard and the steps that lead up to the deck as well. Next, please. Just another picture of the deck. This is actually the area, the western portion of the decking, and this is in need of the side yard variance, and we're facing east. Next, please, Morgan. This is a railing, actually, on the, would be the west side of the house. Next, please. And I think it just leads down to a finished basement. Next, please.
That's it.
I think that's it. All right, thank you, Morgan.
Thank you, Denise. Do we have the applicant here this evening?
Good evening. My name is Jackie Morley. I'm here on behalf of the applicant from Toomey, Latham, Shea, Kelly, Dubin, and Carterero. And Ms. Manson is here as well in the audience. This is for our application for 2 variances related to the hot tub, as we've just seen, and the decking in that rear and side yard. Just to give a little bit of a brief background to the application itself, Ms. Manson had gone to the building department to get her CO and had then been forwarded to ARB for that wall we were just talking about, that the 8-foot wall. It should be 6 feet. It's 8 feet, so she's there before that for that. As part of that review, she was told she needs to come before this board for both of these. She had initially applied in March of last year for just the hot tub, and then received additional notices that she needed to also apply for that corner of the deck that you showed in the pictures. And that was when we came on board too. So we submitted an updated application in November. Just to give a brief background of kind of the history of this application to here. So following that, just to walk through a little bit through the criteria and which we identified in our narrative. These improvements are customary for residential properties in the area. And as you can see from these photos, it is screened already by a very high wall. Obviously, the height of the wall is under, discussion with the ARB. But beyond that, that wall, we do also have plantings of green giants that are also tall enough to screen the hot tub as well along that northwestern boundary. As part of the ARB proceedings, Ms. Manson was also required to submit a replanting plan, which she did. So there's additional plantings throughout the property as well. But those green giants have remained, even though they are not native, but they are there as screening.
So that's being put on the side that's affecting the neighbor because of this deck? It's on that side of the property?
I believe there are
additional
there are
vegetation?
some plantings there too, but I think they are mainly also to the southwest as well, along where I believe it's there's town property there that's a nature reserve.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
So because she had received, and we include this, I think it was Exhibit A in the November submission, that she had gotten a clearing determination of pre-existing non-conforming.
Yes.
So it'll go along with that. So the hot tub has been in existence since 2020. Although we acknowledge that's, of course, this is a self-created difficulty and that it was installed out of the correct process. It has not caused any detriment to the neighborhood or to any environmental or natural resources, as was indicated in the TAM. There are no protected natural resources in the property. And this area where the hot tub is already located has already been disturbed. And as you saw from the pictures, it's really well crafted and built into where the deck is and really shielded well from the neighboring properties. That careful planning of that area has helped make it not obtrusive to the rest of the area. This is, and as you could see from the pictures of the neighboring properties, her house and her deck are very well set back from the rest of the properties in the area. Just of note as well, I know that I did provide the mailing, the posting. One neighbor at 24 16th Street had let me know that she could not receive the certified mail, so I ended up emailing to her. The property to the north, directly north of her. So I ended up emailing her directly, just with the package, and I ended up speaking to her on the phone too. So she had no further questions after I spoke to her. Just of note as well, Ms. Manson, when she initially installed the hot tub, she did not realize that because of its slightly larger size than 6 feet in width, that it would be considered a pool and would have the necessary double setbacks, and also that it would then make the deck a pool deck, technically under our code. So that that's kind of how she ended up in this this path to this board. Just making sure I'm missing anything.
Is the hot tub, you had a building permit in 2002, I think it
Two.
was, right? So,
Mm.
is it the same owner of the house since then?
Yes, it is.
Is the,
I
is the
just
hot
believe her-
tub,
her
is the
last name
hot tub
changed.
built? I'm just trying to connect some dots.
Of course.
Was the hot tub built where the permit was given? Where,
I do know that the
or did
previous,
it deviate from that?
apologize for cutting you off. I do believe that the previous permit was submitted for the same size hot tub. I know that the deck at the time was a smaller deck. I think it was 400. Now this deck is, I believe, 900 square feet. I can have Ms. Manson speak to that if you'd like, because
Yeah,
she's here.
just-
Yeah, just to see if it's in the same location.
Yeah, I mean,
And the
we
same
we'd want to
size,
see
right.
probably, some, like, maybe the submitted plans or survey at the time.
Because the TAM notes, there was a BP opened in 2002 to construct the hot tub and deck, but was closed in 2010 since the work was not completed.
Right. So then I believe then, Ms. Manson at that time, her last name was Witt, I believe. So this is still the same applicant, same owner. And I just think it was an issue of cost at the time. And then, in 2020, she was able to do that. And then it just didn't apply for the new permit until after it was constructed. And we have it here. Yeah.
That's it, that's a proposed, Morgan?
This is the building permit survey.
Is the building permit the same numbers for the hot tub and the deck at that time
There's,
as now?
talk about it when,
It seems like it's in the general area?
it's really hard to, I don't know if it's like this round thing here. This is just what's associated with that 2002 building permit. It's kind of hard to tell. It looks like it's kind of in the middle of what was supposed to be in the middle of the deck, but
I'm sorry, Morgan, I can't hear you.
it's just hard to tell based on, this is the only survey that's associated with that 2002 building permit, and it's just not super legible. So it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, there's maybe a little sketch here of where it was supposed to be, but it's just hard to say definitively where it was proposed to be. In
What was
2002.
on that survey, can you tell what the distance to the property line was?
I think, well, it's in a UR area, so things may have
We should
changed
probably
since then.
swear you in.
But this
first.
is the affected property
Morgan,
line.
we should probably swear you in. We should probably swear you in.
Oh, yeah,
first.
right, yeah.
Just announce yourself.
Morgan Slater for the planning department.
You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I did.
Thank you, sorry.
This is the affected property line that we're talking about today. And so the deck is pretty similar to what's there. But it's, like I said, it's just not super legible where the hot tub was proposed based on what the plans are showing. Because they're just kind of old, they're over 20 years old.
So there's nothing really to indicate back then what the
Yeah, I
size
can't
of the hot
confidently
tub
say
was?
where it was proposed in 2002 based on.
And now what
the
that
plans-
setback, there seems like a line there.
They have they show the 25-foot setback to like the corner of the house right here, which is shown on the survey that we have. Where is it? I think it's like, it's just kind of hard to say for sure where it was proposed.
I'm trying to wonder, it appears like it's in a general area of what that was, and there was a permit given. And I'm wondering if, did we find out when the double setback was?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
In the code?
I'm gonna try to turn the air off. So
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
okay.
having trouble here.
Yeah, I tried to figure that out and I couldn't really find anything.
So did the
about
double
when.
setback happen for after 2002?
I have no idea.
Just I don't know.
I tried to look into it, but the most recent amendment to that part of the code was 2016 and it was definitely in place before 2016.
Okay, go ahead, sorry. Do you have anything else?
Unless there are questions for me right now, I think I'm good. And I appreciate your time. So I'll stand down, so let Morgan.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Wait, here's the building.
The size of the tub is the same.
All right, wait 1 second, let me just look.
Good evening,
something.
board.
2000. I'm gonna look this up. That's exactly what I'm trying.
Well, we know it was approved at 64 square feet, and this, the TAM says this
That's
one's.
right.
So we kind of covered a couple of
Well, the
things
July,
already.
the history in the building history for 7/16/02 says building permit, 400 square foot deck with 64 square foot spa. Work never done, permit is closed. So that's what they were asking for back then.
Yes.
And in
Which is
2005, they renewed
the same
that,
spot
same
size.
thing.
Yeah,
That's all. That's the question.
That's the
we don't really
question.
know what the
Okay.
decking
Same
is,
spot
right?
size.
That's the answer.
I have another question.
But your good question was about whether when the double setbacks came in, but
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did try to look into it,
It's in the-
but
it's
I
in
don't
the
know,
We're
is
asking for
there,
the same exact
is
thing.
there some
Okay.
sort of record of when, like, the
Yeah,
code
we would have to
changes?
just look
Look into it.
Yeah, records for when the local law was
That
adopted.
is the
Yeah,
question.
okay.
What's the code section? I can try.
I think it's 255-1189.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll be
it'll say
tinkering
what
on my
it is.
phone while
Alright.
you talk.
We kind of covered a couple things already. There's no NRSP aspect to this application. They do have pre-existing non-conforming clearing. I don't really know much about the plantings that are required by the ARB. But obviously that's an improvement to the conditions of the property regardless if they have pre-existing non-conforming clearing limits. The requested variances of 4.6 feet and 5 feet reduce the required setback by 23% and 25%. We kind of went over the building permit, like it's just not super clear where the hot tub was proposed. But there are some shrubs and mature trees throughout the property and along the affected property line, which kind of function as like moderate screening. I have a picture from when I did my site visit that kind of gives you a general idea on the state of the vegetation on the property that would open. Oops. It's kind of a mixture of shrubs and oaks. But also the neighbor, there's two affected neighbors really along this property line because it's quite long. So there's kind of only like one actual residence that would be impacted by the variance. This picture comes up now. So you can kind of see that this
Yes.
is the house in the distance and this is the hot tub right here. And then there's the corner of the wall. But you can kind of get a good sense of the shrubs and the mature canopy that exists on the property. Other than that, I can answer any questions the board has about the conditions of the property.
Good question about the amount of the decking. On those two permits that expired, it was 400 feet. And then there was a subsequent permit in 2014 for 900 square.
which is.
Yes, I'm going to pull up the,
Did that get that, so it was the 900 that was built, or is it a total of 1,300?
let's see. So in 2018, it was 900 square feet, which I'm going to pull up that permit so you can look at the plans for it. And that seems to be accurate to the existing conditions on the property. Obviously, they don't have a CO for the deck right now, so it's
Right.
kind of hard to say exactly what square footage is, but this appears to be close to what is there on the property today, and it's for 900 square feet.
900, so it's not 13. That 9 includes the 4.
I don't think that the
Doesn't include the,
2002 building permit was closed in 2010 because the work was never initiated.
Right.
So there wasn't, I believe there wasn't a deck until, or maybe a smaller deck
until the
until
900.
the 2018 building permit was open, and that is the deck that is currently there
Even though
today.
the hot tub was actually there in 2002.
No, the hot tub was not there. No,
The work wasn't completed.
Wasn't done.
yeah, so the 2002 building permit was for a hot tub and a deck, but that work was never initiated, so it was closed in 2010. Then another building permit was open in 2018 just for the decking.
Right.
And then the hot tub was kind of just also installed.
And Morgan, can I just clarify? I know that the hot tub size makes it classify as a pool, and therefore the pool on the deck means it's a pool deck, so the pool deck has to conform to the setbacks. But does that whole 900 square feet, or if we think it's 900, all of it has to conform to double setback, or is it just where that square is, where the hot tub is?
Well, the relief sought is the maximum
Right.
variance that's requested.
Right.
So if you approve the variance that's requested, then you'd be approving anything that is a larger setback.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? No.
No.
Thank you, Morgan. Council, you have anything to add, or? Oh, is there anybody in the public first that would like to address this? Matt, anybody on the phone?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
I'll just say to the last question that was asked, from what I can tell when we submitted our application, the deck would conform were it not for the hot tub. So the deck conforms with the setback otherwise, but because of the hot tub, it now needs to have that double setback. So just to put that on the end. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. and Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any callers?
We did that,
We did that part?
yeah, just before.
Goes by fast.
You want to close this? We're
Yeah,
good?
please, yep.
In the matter of the application of Corey Manson, 28 16th Street in Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-78-2-4.2, I make a motion that we close the public hearing and record.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
I concur, thank you. Our next hearing is, the applicant is Kenneth and Heather Dodge
Okay.
at 326 Kings Point Road, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-24-4-7. Size and location is 20,000 square feet at 326 Kings Point Road, Clearwater Beach, Section 1, Lot 61, map number 2715, filed June 4th in 1957. And the description is to remove existing brick patios, trellis, decking, and stairs, and to construct a 1,559 square foot of first and second story additions, a 70 square foot entry porch, a 766 square foot of decking, covered porch, relocated AC units, and associated structures on a parcel of land containing tidal wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of East Hampton Town, and 2 variances are required for this application. Variances of 27.1 feet and 9 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to construct the proposed porch and decking 72.9 feet and house additions 91 foot respectively, where 100-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 5, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavit of service and posting. Everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this application.
Thank you. We have the vice chair.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Okay, the subject property is situated on the south side of Kings Point Road in Springs, and as noted, it was properly posted. Next, please. This is the front of the residence. I'm standing on Kings Point Road, facing the front of the house, and the front of the house here is showing that line of trellis and the line of the existing roof that's going to be removed for the second story addition, and there's also going to be, in that north side, they're going to be adding a new entry porch. And of course, that's the gravel driveway that leads to it. And there's a brick walkway that leads to the front of the house. Next, please. This is just another visual of, there's actually 2 driveways on this property. There's one on the east side and one on the west side. And this is in the center, and they're both stone gravel driveways. Next, please. This is the brick and sand walkway that leads up to the front of the, I'm not sure if this is going to be removed. Maybe that could be addressed during the presentation. But this does lead up to the area that's going to have the new entry porch. And this is also the side of the second story addition. Next, please. And this is, I'm assuming, if they're going to be redoing this as an enclosed porch, they're going to be removing this brick and sand, which is on the west and the east side of the front entrance. Next, please. Now I am walking around the east side of the existing residence, where there's going to be a 702 square foot first floor addition. Next, please. Now I'm on the west side of the property, and Wanted to give you the back area of this residence is all brick and stone, a lot of furniture, a lot of outside living space. This is actually, from what I understand, they're going to be removing the replacement of these existing brick patio with proposed decking and porch, which is going to be on the south side. So everything you're kind of looking at, the brick and sand is going to be removed. Next, please. Try to just give you a better visual of the backyard. Again, you'll be seeing the second-story addition on this, on the east side. And this back area will, the brick and sand that you're looking at, it's hard to pick up in this photo, but it will be removed. Next, please. Just a continuation of the back patio area. Next, please. I think that's a duplicate. Next, please. Okay, this is taken on the north side of the property. This is actually, I tried to get a shot of that second driveway. When you pull in, there's actually two driveways, one on the west and one on the east side. Next, please. This is leading up to the top of the bulkhead on the southern side of the house. And the wetlands in question are along the face of the bulkhead. Next, please. This is just a shot of the bulkhead, wetlands, and Hog Creek. Next, please. This is just a shot of the vegetation, of sort of what the property looks like. It's actually a very pretty property. Next, please. Because I'm obsessed with hoses on properties, I took a picture of this. I'm always wondering where the water's going to lead to, but this is actually attached to the gutter and leader, so I'm assuming that when the water drains down from the roof, it's draining through this black hose. Next, please. This is just the backyard leading up to the bulkhead. Next, please. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant here, or agent? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Announce yourself.
My name's Dan Michaels. I'm local architect, and I'm here with Penny and Heather Dodge, applicants.
Okay, do you raise your right hand? Do you first swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I'm a local architect, grew up in Springs, longtime friends with Penny and Heather. We used to live next door to one another in Wainscott in the early 2000s, became close friends. They moved in 2004 to the Clearwater neighborhood in Springs, began growing their family with the purchase of their new house. Their eldest son is about to graduate from the high school. Their youngest is about to graduate from Springs and join his sister in the high school. So they've enjoyed living in Clearwater. They spend a lot of time down at the beach pavilion, the marina, the inlet. It's been a great place to hang out with their family. It's a great resource for the community there. When this property that we're discussing tonight became available, the timing worked out and they were excited to move just a short walk down to the park as opposed to where they were on Norfolk. The house is mostly original to its 1960 roots, as you can see in the photographs. The Dodges knew it needed some updating to support their family. Both the mechanical systems and the thermal envelope are not really near current standards, and the layout is a bit antiquated for a modern family. Tyler, if you wouldn't mind putting page 3 of the PDF plans. So here we can see the existing ground floor is on the right. Here we have 3 bedrooms, a bathroom, family room, and a deck. And then the finished basement is on the left, contains the kitchen, the dining, the living room, the laundry, and the master bedroom. And you can see that large grade level brick terrace at the back there. The first floor is 1,042 square feet. And this finished basement area is 750 square feet. So we have a total habitable space of 806 1,786 square feet. If you can turn back to page 1, please. Thank you. So we explored the idea of renovating the existing home as it was, but became aware of the updated FEMA map. So the new flood line crosses through the back of the house, which means that there can no longer be any living space in that basement, as the floor level is elevation 4 in a zone AE5. So our second concept was to relocate that basement space to the street side of the house and have all the living space on the ground floor. And you can see in that site plan, we have 15-foot East Hampton setbacks. This idea would have proposed any new construction on the landward side of the 100-foot wetland setback and eliminated the need for any variances. We would have still needed an NRSP, but no variances. But unfortunately, Clearwater Beach Property Owners Association has a 40-foot street side setback throughout the whole neighborhood. So that kind of voided that concept for us. So we went back to the drawing board and developed the concept we see here today. We have a 702 square foot addition on the east side of the existing home, which aligns with the existing foundation, and a proposed 857 square foot second floor over the center section of the revised footprint. And we are proposing to remove the terrace and pergola along that entire length of the front and replace a small portion of that space with an entry porch and foyer. And we're proposing to extend the existing deck across the back of the house while removing a portion of the existing grade level brick terrace that's on the water side. And this would increase the distance between the wetlands and constructed space from 62 feet to 74 feet. We have included with this proposal the installation of a new IA sanitary system on the street side of the house, approximately 130 feet from the wetlands, as far away as the property permits, where the existing system was located on the water side, 60 feet from the wetlands. Prior to filing the application, the brick system collapsed and was no longer functioning. So we went through the emergency permit process, and we installed a new septic in the front yard because the house wasn't livable. But it was our intention to present that system as part of this application. If we could turn to the next page, please.
Can you just clarify what kind of system did you put in the front yard?
It's a hydro action.
IA. Oh, it is an IA.
IA.
An IA,
Yeah.
yeah.
Adopted.
So Dan, just so I'm clear on the basement, FEMA is requiring the demolition of it, and that's why you're relocating to other livable
Right, so
spaces.
we could
what are you gonna
not get
do
we
with
could
the?
not get a permit to renovate it because it's
So what's gonna happen with the existing basement?
just storage.
It's just gonna be storage?
Yeah,
okay.
for, the kids' bikes and
Because your
paddle boards
application
and-
says, cannot be renovated and must be removed, but you just mean the living space of the
Correct,
basement?
correct.
The structure remains, right? Yeah.
The structure
Yes.
will remain a basement for
Okay.
bikes and surfboards and baseball equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So currently the lot is grandfathered 100% cleared, 18,345 square feet where 10,000 is allowed. This is the re-veg plan we submitted originally with our application, where we proposed 6,900 square feet of re-veg. After receipt of the technical analysis memo, we submitted an updated plan last week, taking into consideration the planner's recommendations. And we are now proposing 8,345 of re-veg, adjusted its layout a bit. Oh, is that the updated one?
Does that bring it into conformance with
That brings it
APA?
into conformance.
And then a harbor
conformity,
protection over, wow, that's-
Yep.
and adjust the clearing, attempting to curtail any runoff into Hog Creek. If you could turn to page 5, please. So here we have the proposed first floor plan. We have the living, dining, kitchen, the entry mudroom on the north side with a half bath, and then the master bedroom on the east side. We can see the existing deck extending across the back of the house at a depth of 14 feet, with the center section of the deck is covered by roof. This is the south side, so it's nice to have that shady space to hang out with adjacent to the common living area. Gives a little bit of solar heat gain reduction in the summer. And we are also thinking in the future about a solar or voltaic system that could be installed both on the porch roof and the main gable. It would bring us very close to net zero energy on this building. If you could turn to the next page for me, please. Thank you. Here we have a simple second floor plan with 3 bedrooms for the kids, 2 bathrooms, and a small central hangout space for them. All the spaces throughout the house, first and second floor, are modest yet comfortable. And as I said, the existing habitable space totals 1,786 square feet. That's the first floor and the basement with 4 bedrooms. When we calculate the proposed first and second floor, factor in the removal of the finished basement, we are actually only proposing an additional 815 square feet of habitable space, and the house remains 4 bedrooms. We propose a total of 2,601 square feet of gross floor area, where 3,434 is allowed. This is 75% of allowable. We propose 2,297 square feet of building coverage, where 3,669 is allowed, and this is 62% of the allowable. And we are proposing 4,082 square feet of total coverage, where 9,173 is allowed. This is a 44% of allowable. When we calculate the coverage of the existing house, including the existing decking, terraces, and pergola, we have a calculation of 2,614 square feet, which is 14.3% of the total lot area. And when we calculate the proposed house, including the decking and porches, factor in the removal of the brick terrace areas, we have a calculation of 2,838 square feet, 15.5%. So this is an increase of coverage of only 1.2% on the property, which we don't believe to be substantial redevelopment of this lot. Tyler, if you don't mind turning to the rendering PDF. So here are 2 aerial shots that we put up a drone and a 3D model of the building. And you can see on the right, that's the existing conditions. And we'll be removing that terrace and an arbor along the front of the house. And on the left, you can see we extend the house to the east and create that second-story addition in the center, and then extend the deck across the back of the house while removing a substantial portion of that brick on-grade terrace, which again increases the distance from the wetlands from 62 feet to 74 feet. And we believe these images convey that the character of the property remains intact. If you could go to the next page.
Dan, 1 second,
Sure.
go back, could you go back, Tyler? On the left, that brick and sand patio that leads to the front entry, that's going to remain.
We are eliminating that.
You're eliminating
We're going to
that.
eliminate that, and then we're also eliminating that secondary driveway that you showed.
The second, the
That
one,
was like a result of septic access, and
Okay.
it was muddy, so we put some
which
gravel.
so the driveway, you're going to be the one on the west? Oh, no,
On the east
on
side.
the east, the east
Right.
side driveway, okay.
Yes. And so the next image is from the front. Simple 2-story gable mass with 1-story elements on the east and west. And then the final page shows the rear elevation, again, like clean, simple architecture. You can see the deck extends across the back of the house and is of modest proportion. The design's rooted in vernacular architecture and presents a sense of belonging. We made a concerted effort to create a simple home that fits the character of the neighborhood with minimal impact to the site. The re-veg will enhance the property and the environment while helping to protect Hog Creek. And we work to minimize the variance requests and believe this proposal meets the zoning board's standards of approval. And we're happy to answer any questions about the application.
Dan, I should have taken a picture of them, but the AC units are expected to be relocated, and you don't want to have to come back for a silly variance. So where are they going to be relocated to? Do you know?
Could you go to that site plan for me, Tyler? I think it's the first page. I didn't show them on there. At one point, we were exploring geothermal. We're not sure if that's in the budget yet.
Just trying to make sure it's
So I
in
don't have them
compliance
on
with.
that
Okay.
proposal. So that'd be probably another like 60 square feet of coverage if we.
Just want to make sure it's in a place that's
we go with a
compliant
heat
with the
pump
code.
System, yeah.
So with that though, you're proposing further re-veg. So there's going to need to be a survey. I don't think there's a submitted survey on that yet, right?
With the,
Oh, we have a survey with the re-veg on there, yes.
Oh, what
You
date
do?
was that?
is it the one we just got today?
Oh, we just received it, okay.
Literally.
Not with the updated
Today.
Additional,
So.
just with the original submission.
This is September
I was
26,
handed it
23.
tonight. Where's the replay? I think this is it.
Yeah. I'll be able to-
So
Dan, while you're there,
Has
is that it?
Yeah, the
Might be-
survey we have on file, unless it didn't get in there yet,
September 26, 2023. Is there a newer one?
No,
but you,
no, that's the one this one here. Yeah, I believe he shows the clearing on there with the revegetation. But the re-veg plan I submitted last week, I don't have a survey to accompany that.
Oh, okay. So
I see.
that's not on the
Okay.
survey yet. Our
No,
re-veg
not
plan
yet,
is up.
no.
When was the re-veg plan dated?
Last week, I believe.
This is the one we just received.
I think I have that.
Dan, my last question is, have you had an opportunity to look at the recommended project conditions, and do you agree with all of them?
We do.
All right, very good.
Yes.
Those are all my questions, Chairman.
any
Delory.
questions?
just one,
I just want the date on that re-veg plan.
yeah.
I think
Um,
we just,
front of us.
right,
We just
this
got it.
one right here. Terry, the one we just got.
March 29th, May 29th, 2024.
I think I got that.
Okay. Do we have that in the file? Sorry, might have missed
What you
it.
got handed tonight, Terry?
Yeah, the-
We got it
I
tonight.
didn't see it was
There
here.
it is.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Never mind.
Just
Got it.
received it.
Thank you.
Can I just ask you presented these images, these renderings, and are they accurate now? If they weren't done a while ago and there's no changes, if I look at this is the building I'm looking at?
Correct.
Haven't been any changes since then?
No changes, no. The only thing is the condensers.
Can I just double check on setback? You mentioned that Clearwater has the special 40-foot deep front. Are there any differences on side setbacks in Clearwater relative to standard code? Just double
They're
checking.
actually less stringent. It's like 10 feet on the sides and it's 15 here.
So you're meeting town B
Correct.
setbacks, okay.
Any other questions?
I'm
No, I'm good for now.
good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Tyler?
Tyler Borsak for the planning department.
Tyler, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So the subject property is located on the south side of Kings Point Road in Springs. The property is currently before the ZBA seeking approvals in order to remove several existing structures and to construct a new deck and porch on the south side of the residence, 702 square foot first floor addition on the east side of the residence, and an 857 square foot second story addition. New entry porch on the north side, relocated AC units and associated structures. The applicants have also included a landscaping plan, which proposes to supplement some of the existing cedars on the property with understory vegetation in order to help provide a more substantial runoff mitigation, which was recently updated as discussed. The parcel is located within the Harbor Protection Overlay District and within jurisdiction of the waters of Hog Creek. Hog Creek is a direct conduit to the waters of Gardner's Bay and is a component of the Peconic Estuary Program's critical environmental area. The tidal wetlands can be expected to provide all the benefits typically associated with quality wetlands, including the provision of diverse, high-quality plant and wildlife habitats, nursery areas for commercially important finfish and shellfish, the the attenuation of floodwaters, the removal of pollutants prior to groundwater and surface water recharge, and the opportunities for scientific research, education, and aesthetic appreciation. Any increase in development within the area has the potential to increase stormwater runoff into Hog Creek. The proposed project represents significant construction with an increase in the gross floor area from an existing 1,042 square feet of the first floor only to a proposed 2,601 square feet. Similarly, the proposed lot coverage is proposed to increase fairly significantly by 780 square feet, and total lot coverage proposed to increase by 626 square feet. Centering on the property is now proposed to be reduced from the existing 18,345 down to 10,000 square feet, which would be conforming. While the size of the residence is increasing significantly, the existing residence on the property is a modest home, and the ZBA should examine the property holistically. With a recent sanitary system upgrade and the proposed revegetation of the property, the increase in the gross floor area may be adequately mitigated in comparison to the final gross floor area that is proposed. The board should discuss the proposed revegetation if they feel that it is adequate mitigation. The applicant had recently updated that plan to further bolster the vegetation and create a more substantial buffer to the wetlands. The applicants did note in the cover letter that they still need access to the bulkhead since they use that to gain access to Hog Creek, and so they have left an access area in order to do so. Also included in the updated plans is an area of permeable self-binding local grit, which the planning department would suggest just be left off the plans if approved. Any addition of gravel would decrease permeability, even compared to a grass lawn in this case. The plan overall is an improvement and would eliminate non-conforming clearing though. The project as a whole represents a fairly significant increase in the size of the existing modest residence, with a small increase in the total lot coverage after eliminating some existing brick patios and decking. The replacement of the existing brick patio with the proposed decking will increase setbacks to wetlands, and the proposed addition is located no closer to wetlands than the existing residence. The board recently had an approval in the neighborhood fronting on Hog Creek at 346 Kings Point Road that you might want to reference. That application approved additions to the residence that increased the gross floor area to 3,027 square feet. It also significantly included a significant revegetation along the shoreline. The same property was subsequently granted variances in order to construct a swimming pool and decking within setbacks to wetlands. So the proposed application could certainly be considered comparable to the application aside from the amount of and location of revegetation and the smaller size of the final improvements on the subject application. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
You mentioned that the new vegetation plan was an improvement. What's your reaction to it as a whole? Does it go as far as you would like to have seen from your original recommendation?
I think so. I think we had a couple concerns with the plant makeup. It was a lot of grasses, and that they've switched over to being a lot more bayberry and things like that, and then included some additional areas to provide a better buffer between the house itself and the wetlands. So that sort of middle section of the property was left with just like 2 trees, and they filled that in a little bit more. So I think it's more appropriate for what the board would want to see, and certainly reducing it down to the maximum allowable and removing a nonconformity is always a benefit.
Excuse me. Tyler, this other property that you cite in the TAM 346 Kings Point, just for context, I didn't get a chance to look it up. What is the size of that property? If you know.
Off the top of my head, I wouldn't.
Okay, just one. And then
I think
are there
it's
any
maybe
other
slightly larger, but they're all roughly the same size. It would just depend on the distance between the wetlands and the road.
Okay.
More than anything on those.
Yeah, and is there any other context you can give us? Obviously, this is a dense neighborhood. I'm just trying to put in context the 149% increase.
Right.
I'm not just looking at that in the vacuum.
That number is based on just the first floor, which is now no longer technically habitable. So obviously they included the basement, which I think is a reasonable thing to do since it was livable for a long period of time up until they increased the FEMA flood zones. But yeah, I think when I was looking at it, I made comparisons in my head to that other application, that they seemed fairly similar to one another as far as what they were proposing and the various elements on the property. This existing house and this one is smaller than the one that was on that house.
Okay, yeah. What year was that? Do you know the approval?
It was,
That was,
Morse, I think the last name was.
Morse. It was
Morse, something
wasn't
like that. It was
Just before me.
6, 7, 8 years ago, something along
Yeah,
those lines.
yeah.
Thank you.
Somewhat recent, it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
That helps.
They had a very substantial re-veg at the same time.
Yeah, that one had a very significant revegetation on the shoreline. But
Tyler, have you had a chance to review the recent re-veg plan?
yes, yeah.
And regarding the species that are proposed, do you see any problems with that?
It seemed more appropriate to what we would normally see in a revegetation.
And then you would have a chance to review it and comment prior to the building. In other words, we would, I guess, let you have the final on species and plan.
Yeah, I think
Right.
we would be comfortable with this being included in the
Okay.
determination if the
Okay,
board
great.
wanted to approve it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Other than the gravel being included along the bulkhead, I think that should get removed.
So
Um,
it's not.
Not a huge area, but there's no need to increase or decrease permeability. I think if it was, even if they just left grass up to it, I think that'd be fine. It's a access strip. It's not a significant area.
Any questions?
That basement, as it exists today, the habitable space, was that included in the GFA?
Not in the
not
assessment,
today.
no. I only included the first floor, yeah.
Just one more question. I see the dry wells placed close to the deck, but with the revegetation, I imagine there's going to be a lot of irrigation, at least to enable their taking shape. Do you have any other concerns about runoff sort of further down the property? I know that the slope of the property, I think, is more at the
Yeah,
top
the
of it,
vegetation that they added was sort of dead center on the lot. So I think that'll help bolster any runoff issues, which I think was a good improvement in the plan. I think there's also a question about the AC units. Was that?
Yeah.
They're on the, if you look at the survey, they're shown on there. They're on the north east side of the
So they are
the proposed
relocated.
addition. Yeah, they are shown on there on the north side. They're about as good as you would expect them to be located. Yes, yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
just south of the IA tank.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I am, no.
Thank you, Tyler. And you have anything to add, or we can close this out?
public.
What?
Well, no, Dan
Okay,
first.
before, well, let's go to public. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address this application? No, anybody on the phone? Matt?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I did submit a letter from a neighbor at 324 in support of the application. So that gravel, we were happy to remove that. We thought it was a better idea than taking lawn right up to the bulkhead, but Tyler does not think that that's a good idea. So we will remove that from the re-veg plan. And we'll have Tim adjust the survey. We'll resubmit both of those back to Tyler. And as far as irrigation, we're not planning on any irrigation. It's all native plants. He would water it by hand to get them established, and then they should be fine.
I think for the record, though, we're going to close the record and we'll make the revised survey and planting a condition of the permit rather than keeping the record open.
Okay, sure.
Could be a condition of
Right.
One other point is just that we've had similar applications with bulkheads that are associated with the property, and that you're not in front of us tonight for any improvements on the bulkhead or any changes on the bulkhead. The bulkheads are going to stay just the way we see in the photos now.
Correct.
Just so you know that any potential approval on this would not allow for any additional work in the bulkhead area.
Understood.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
We will in 1 second. Okay, in the matter of the application of Kenneth and Heather Dodge, 326 Kings Point Road, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-24-4-7, I make a motion that we close the public hearing and record.
I'll second it.
Concur.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So next we have And Lori, you might want to help me with this pronouncement of his name. Stuart Leach, is that right? And Anna Mijic? Mitch. Leach and Mitch. Okay, there you go. Nice. All right. That's the applicant, and that's 71 Jacqueline Drive in Amagansett, Suffolk tax map number 300-174-2-32. Size and location is 17,000 square feet at 71 Jacqueline Drive, Beach Hampton, Section 5, Block 22, lots 10 through 16, map number 1763 in Amagansett. The description is to construct a 112 square foot swimming pool with pool fencing, pool equipment, 669 square feet of decking, air conditioning units, new stairs, and an upgrade sanitary system to allow an existing approximately 290 square foot of gravel area and stone walkways to remain, remove a portion of the existing driveway and AC units, and to clear approximately 22,453 square feet of vegetation on a parcel of land containing wetlands, dune land, and beach vegetation. A natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 9 variances are required for this application. Variances of 95.5 feet, 79.5 feet, 63.5 feet, 62 feet, 42 feet, 28 feet, 21 feet, and 20 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to allow a proposed walkway to remain 54.5 feet, steps to be constructed to 20.5 feet, gravel area to remain 36.5 feet, decking to be constructed 38 feet, AC units 58 feet, pool fencing 72 feet, and swimming pool 79 feet, and pool equipment 80 feet from the freshwater wetlands respectively, where 100-foot setbacks are required. One variance of 45.5 feet from 255-430 of the Town Code is required to allow the existing clearing to remain 4.5 feet from freshwater wetlands, where 50-foot setback is required, and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavit of service and posting. Everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this application.
Thank you, and this is in member Mearings.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Okay, so this is showing that the notice was posted properly. It was actually all the way in the northeast corner of the property, but it was there. Next slide. This is just a road view. This is looking north on Jacqueline up towards where it curves to Cliff Road. Next slide. And in the opposite direction, looking south across Central, and in the distance would be Marine Boulevard. Next slide. This is a very wide lot. It's 175 feet, so there are like 2 across the street neighbors. I just want to show this. This is the cottage that's directly across. Next slide. And the other house that's directly across, you can kind of see it peeking through there. And that part in the front along the road, there are wetlands in there. Next slide. Okay, and then I'm looking, I'm on the, looking towards the south side of the property, and where that car is and that fence that may look familiar, that's 65 Jacqueline, which was in front of this board earlier in this year. And the wetlands that we talked about on that property are part of this bigger swath of wetlands, just to put it in perspective. Next slide. So now I'm moving from that other property back north. So this is the part of the lot that's in front of, the street is in front of the big tangle of wetlands that runs back and around the back of the house. Next slide. Okay, this is looking at the front facade of the house with the sandy and grass in front. Next slide. And this is just the remaining of the front facade of the house. Just to let you know, from a character standpoint, this house actually is documented in mid-century lore. It's called the Snell House, and it was built by an architect called Frank D. Israel, who was pretty well known at the time, and it was restored before the current owners bought it. Just wanted to put that in there. Next slide. Okay, this is the driveway on the northern kind of corner of the property. As you go further back, sort of where the facade of the house is, kind of in front of the truck, that area back there is where the proposed pool and deck would go, and then this gravel driveway towards the front would remain. Next slide. Okay, this is the walkway that's on the survey gravel walk that's I think in question in terms of its needs variances to remain, and that runs back to the southern deck on the house that is the closest thing to the wetlands. Next slide. Oh, just skip that, I'm sorry. Next slide. Okay, so I'm just off that walkway, and that area there is modestly cleared. There's some re-veg in there, but that area, I think the aerials will show that has been thinned and cleared at some point over the last few years. Next slide. This is also looking off to the south of the south side of the house. There's the wetlands in the distance, and again, some area that's supposed to be buffer. Next slide. This just shows, looking in there, the beautiful tangle of wetlands that exist. Next slide. Okay, now I've walked up that gravel path, and I'm between the southern deck and the wetlands, and you can see how the clearing has, well, you can see how close the deck is to the wetlands. You can see the property slopes down, and it has been cleared basically right into the wetlands, right towards wetlands. Next slide. More of that, and you'll actually see, you can see like a little blue reflection in there. The wetlands, even just this past weekend, are still very full. Next slide. More of the wetlands and the clearing on that side and how full they are. Next slide. And same thing, lots of water in play very close to the deck. Okay, so now I've turned my back to the wetlands. This is that deck on the south side. You can see there's a shower there where those two canvas deck chairs are. I believe that is where the stairs to the roof deck. You can see the roof deck railing up there. Next slide. And then that deck attaches to their rear deck that runs a good chunk of the back facade of the house. Next slide. Okay, so now I've stepped off that deck. There's a broken, or whatever you call it, the stone step pathway, beach grass on either side of it. Next slide. And I've stepped back a little further so you can see my back is to, the wetlands are still in play, as you can see on the survey, around this back part, this back section of the house. Next slide. And some more of the kind of nice native vegetation in the back there that kind of tails away. But next slide. Okay, so I'm going further around the back side of the house and getting to, you see where the bench and that gravel area, that also is called out in the application. It's a bocce court right now. And then between that bocce court and the facade of the house is where also additional decking is proposed. Next slide. More, that's closer up of that. Keep going. Next slide. And then as I'm getting, again, towards the northern end of the property, I just want to note there's a large line of non-native, I don't know if they're lealands or what they are back there. Otherwise, it's sandy and beach grass. Next slide. Okay, so this is, it's hard to tell. So first of all, Vice Chair Savarese, I took this because there's a hose there. I just, I'm not quite sure. The hose wraps all the way around. It wraps actually all the way around the back side of the property. But this corner is, there's some topography there. It slopes up, and that whole northern property boundary is well vegetated and nicely buffered and sort of very native and natural there. Just wanted to call that out because I think that will come into play when the dry wells are moved. Next slide. Okay, this is the mid-century modern drama side of the house. I'm wrapping around to the north facade of the house. That's the back of the driveway. Next slide. Now I'm looking down that driveway back towards Jacqueline, and this area back here before you get to the car in the front, again, that's where the deck and the pool is proposed to go. Next slide. Yeah, just further down the driveway as I'm getting back to Jacqueline. Next slide. Okay, this just wraps around to the front facade of the house. There's a gravel walk there. And next slide. And again, I just want to take note of, it's sandy area, but versus historical and aerials, this area has really sort of been flattened of its more the topographic, character that we see a lot in the area. It's also was duneland, but it's now irrigated. Next slide. And then just for fun, this is an archival photo of what the house looked like, I guess, soon after it was built. Last slide. And then that is what that area that we just looked at, that's sort of sandy and flat, I guess that's sort of what it had looked like at some point when it became more vegetated. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Hi, Lori.
Hello.
Lori.
Just announce your name first. And
Lori Wiltshire for Land Planning Services, representing the
you've been here
applicant.
before. Lori, do you swear affirm to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the
I
truth?
do.
Thank you.
I do. So the application was submitted back in October of 2022 for an NRSP and wetland setback variances in order to install a small prefabricated plunge pool with proper fencing and pool equipment, to construct decking associated with the proposed pool, exterior stairs to an existing roof deck, and to install an IAOWTS sanitary system. Additional proposed work includes relocation of AC units and dry wells, removal of a portion of the driveway, and clearing associated with the proposed work. Due to the constraints of the size of the property and the location of the wetlands, any proposed work would require an NRSP and variances. The parcel is only 17,500 square feet in size, and the southern quarter is predominantly wetlands. Most of the proposed structures are to be situated on or adjacent to the northern side of the house, except for a staircase to an existing roof deck that will be situated on top of an existing deck approved by the zoning board in 2017. The rest of the proposed work will be landward of the existing structures. The proposed decking and 7 by 13 foot or 91 square foot Soak brand swimming pool are located in the most conforming location on the site, and the bulk of that work is over an existing gravel driveway. The pool will be placed on the property by crane, so very little disturbance would be required. The pool filtration involves ionization of salt water, which eliminates any potential chemical interaction with the wetlands. The leaching trenches for the proposed IAOWTS system will be located slightly further from the wetlands than the existing cesspools, which are most likely situated in or very near the groundwater. The owners are amenable to removing the irregular stone walk. They would then revegetate that area up to the decking. This is shown on the attached survey, which I've just given to you, and it's dated June 1st of 2024, along with the revised clearing calculations. We also note that there will be no change to lot coverage or total lot coverage, and total lot coverage will be 40% where 50% is allowed. This application is very similar to the application of Jason Hirsch across the street at 56 Jacqueline Drive. That ZBA approval was also for a small prefabricated plunge pool to be situated 75 feet from wetlands, where the subject pool would be 79 feet from wetlands. We have submitted a chart that shows how the subject proposed pool, pool fence, pool equipment, AC units, and IAOWTS are all further from the wetlands than that was approved for Hirsch. In fact, Stuart and Anna are friends with the Hirsches and were encouraged to bring forth this similar application. Granting these variances will not cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or produce a detriment to nearby properties. Many nearby properties have swimming pools, pool decks, pool equipment, and pool fencing. You can look at the handout with all the yellow circles to see where all the pools are in this neighborhood. It's very characteristic of this part of town. These variances are required because any improvements to the property would require them due to the location of the wetlands. Thus, the benefit sought cannot be achieved without area variances. While some of the variances are substantial, the owners are going to remove the stone walkway and the gravel, which are closest to the wetlands. There will be no adverse impact to the environmental or physical conditions of the neighborhood. In fact, the septic system upgrade to an IAOWTS will be an invaluable improvement over the existing conventional system, and the proposed 5,200 square foot scenic easement will safeguard the wetlands in perpetuity. While the hardship may be self-created, this should not preclude the granting of the requested variances. All of the recommended project conditions would be adhered to, including project limiting fencing, retention of soil for backfill, revegetation, covenants and restriction, and a substantial scenic easement. We are aware of an email from a LIAG drone, who, according to the assessor's record, is not an immediate neighbor. Contrary to what is stated in that email, our application will have absolutely no impact on the wetlands, birds, or wildlife, because all of the proposed improvements are on the far side of the house, opposite of where the wetlands are, except for the staircase to the roof to be built on an existing deck approved by a previous ZBA. Finally, the applicants have letters of support from 3 of their immediate neighbors at 56, 70, and 81 Jacqueline Drive, which have been submitted to the record prior to tonight's hearing and are attached to your packets. I will make myself available for comments, but I know that Mr. Leach would like to address you as well.
Okay. Anybody got any questions?
No, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
I do. I have some questions because I'm going to be referring to the 2017 determination, which if you read that determination, is very concerned with the wetlands and the constraints of this property. Now, remember, this property is not only just about wetlands, it's about dune and dunescape. So
Stuart's going to speak to that a bit.
The property is highly constrained to that. And if you read the determination, throughout the determination, the applicant at this time was doing things to protect the wetlands, to protect clearing, to do that.
But they removed a deck that was actually essentially in the wetlands.
Let me just finish. This is a recent decision, which means that this property went under great scrutiny. And I think that the board needs to give great deference to a previous determination. Just wanted to say that, but we are, I think, I'm struggling with the application because of that. So.
Okay, well, I know that previous decision removed a deck that was in the wetlands and allowed them to build a deck further.
It was a replacing kind, and yes, there was they removed the shed and stuff like that to protect the wetlands.
Yep. So, like I said, the only thing that is on that side of the house is a staircase on top of that deck approved in 2017. Everything else is in disturbed areas on the other side of the property. The septic is going where the septic already is. I'll let Stuart speak to you, and then we can continue.
Sorry, can I just ask you one question before?
Yeah.
Is that okay? I just want to read this passage from the TAM. The proposed sanitary system location and location of the proposed swimming pool need to be addressed by the applicant in order to determine if the project meets NRSP. I'm continuing the TAM. Relocating the sanitary system to the north side of the property would provide the best long-term improvements in the environmental conditions on the property. Could you just address that?
Yeah, I mean, as we know, the IA design is to eliminate nitrogen. So basically, it's a system that's not going to be leaching into the ground or leaching into the wetlands. So the fact that it's where the old system is a huge improvement on the property, because those 3 cesspools are leaching into the groundwater and into the wetlands. So we couldn't put a pool in the front yard because the setbacks don't allow it. So we had to put the pool in the side yard where there's already a driveway that we don't have to clear for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I'll keep it really short.
Yeah, come on up. Come on up. Announce yourself and
Hi, I'm
address.
Stuart Leach, the applicant on the paper. Just want to say thanks, Laurie, and
You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'll keep it really short. We bought a house in 2020. We love the neighborhood. I have 2 young kids, a 3.5-year-old and a 7.5-year-old. And for us, the house has become a big part of our family life. And so I think with the changing conditions, obviously in the dunes and the water and so on, it's obviously nice. One of the reasons why we wanted to put in something was for our family to be able to enjoy when maybe access to beach, etc., was not possible. So part of this was a lifestyle choice for us. We love the home. We respect the architecture and the surrounding areas, and we love the neighborhood very much. Since we purchased the house, we've actually done a number of enhancements to vegetation and different areas on the property that, where there were invasive species planted in the entire front yard, which is why it looks the way that it does. So those were
Did you have a permit to do that?
I didn't, but I didn't realize that I needed to do that, to take an invasive species out. Jim Grimes did the work. I wasn't aware of that, of needing to do that. So what I would say is that it was removing things that shouldn't have been there, that were planted by the previous owners post the approvals of their work in 2017. And we try to revegetate as much as possible. You saw the planting of native beach grasses, bayberries all over the property and as much as possible.
Right, but I mean, in the photos, it does show that it's a fairly flat area right now, and that's not the definition of a dune land or dunescape. Dunes are undulating, right? So it seems like that's all been modified.
That was not modified by us since we bought this home. So there was a number of, I actually have personal photos of what that front yard looked like. There was a number of invasive species that were planted there. In fact, the previous owner at one point had a flower garden and a fence that was put up on the front property along Jacklin Drive, a wooden fence that was taken down. So all of that was done previous to our ownership. In fact, I would say that we've come in and improved the situation. The reason why I haven't finished revegetating that front yard was because when we put this application in, it was brought to our attention that putting in a new septic system would be at least a requirement if we were to move forward. That was the area that was identified as the only place in which that could go. And so we didn't want to go any further than what we've done, obviously, to this point.
Now, all of that work that you're referencing would have to come out if you were to be approved and put in there.
Understood. And I think the last thing I would just say is the southern side of the property where the previous home actually was situated in the wetlands was obviously removed. That area wasn't cleared. Again, there was a flower garden there that was, when the CO was granted on the sale of the home, I guess, I don't know which part of the town requires that to be removed. It was removed so that when we actually took ownership of the home, that area was, as you see, and in fact, the beach grasses that were put in and some of the beach land were done by us.
Are the screening trees at the back of the, oh, I'm sorry.
I do just want to raise one thing. So Laurie mentioned we had three supporting letters from our neighbors. Mr. Dr. Sands to our west is also in support. I didn't have a letter from him in time. He's a doctor and couldn't do it. I do know that there's a letter from Mrs. Nord, who I think it's ironic that her statement about not wanting us to have a pool, she's actually that northeastern neighbor, her pool is bigger than her own house and also closer to the wetland than what we would be asking for. And I think it's not super helpful for that.
Getting back, Sarah, to this application. When we meet the natural resource special standards, I'm just wondering, since you're increasing the clearing from 5,564 square feet to a proposed 8,017, now reducing this vegetation will affect the runoff. How would you address that? And will the proposed decking and swimming pool be able to be installed without clearing beyond the proposed clearing limits?
The answer to the second question is yes, because it's going on an existing driveway.
So how would you address the clearing going from 5,500 to 8,000?
Well, what's not shown here and what...
A lot like this, it will affect runoff.
What was...
Taking away the vegetation.
Well, we're going to revegetate that walkway, right? But we're also going to revegetate over the sanitary system, which they haven't done as of yet because they know it's going to be disturbed. So there'll be a lot of vegetation, but it's all going to be indigenous like they've been planting all along. Beach grasses and bayberries and all the good things that we like there. But that's a huge area that will be revegetated.
There's a very mature oak on the front of the property. Is that going to have to be lost for the sanitary system, or? Just out of
From what I
curiosity.
understand, Jen, no, I think it stays. I think from the pictures that you can see, it's a little more towards the house and a little further north, so I don't believe that's impacted.
And again, I'm going to refer to the conditions on the previous determination. If you look at the condition, there's a tremendous, the zoning board at that time paid particular attention to the clearing and the vegetation. These, and the words like strictly adhered to and stuff like that. You have to understand, the dune land character here is of preeminence in the town. It was one of the reasons the town developed the NRSP, along with wetlands. So I think we're going to take this serious. We're going to take this decision very serious and weigh it.
I think, given that the main clearing is where the septic upgrade is going, I think the septic upgrade is a huge benefit for this neighborhood and this property and this wetland. I also think the scenic easement and the perpetual protection of the wetland is really important. And I do believe that with the revegetation, that's not going to be much different than what we've got now, other than a tiny 91 square foot plunge pool that's going to be placed on the property, not even excavated and dug in. It's going to be an improvement to the property and for the family.
All right, thank you. Tyler?
Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department again. The subject property is situated on the west side of Jacqueline Drive in Amagansett. The property is currently before the ZBA seeking approvals in order to construct 669 square feet of decking on the north and west sides of the existing residence, construct a new 7-foot by 13-foot swimming pool with equipment and fencing, install a new IA sanitary system, install new stairs over existing decking on the south side of the residence to the roof deck, relocate, install new AC units on the west side of the proposed decking. The existing gravel has been removed from the project, and to allow existing, the stone walkway has been removed from the project, but to allow existing gravel area to remain on the west side of the property. This area is in the Beach Hampton area of Amagansett. It was established in the early 1900s for cottage-style summer residences. Beach Hampton has low elevations and high groundwater table, and is set within the Double Dunes area, natural area of East Hampton. Any increased construction within the area could contribute to the gradual elimination of the natural characteristics on the parcel and in the area, cause an increase in surface runoff, reduce the ability to maintain screening between neighbors, reduce the dune land characteristics of the area, and could increase the cumulative impact of sanitary effluent in a densely developed neighborhood. The wetlands within NRSP jurisdiction and setbacks of this parcel consist of an extensive freshwater wetland to the south and southwest. The wetlands within jurisdiction can be expected to provide the same benefits as any other quality freshwater wetland, especially in this area, the attenuation of floodwaters prior to recharging into the groundwater system. The wetlands within jurisdiction result in a very constrained property, which requires careful review of any changes proposed on the sensitive lot. The wetlands directly south of the property are especially susceptible to runoff from surrounding parcels and contain standing water at times throughout the year, especially after rain events, as we've been seeing in the last few months. The proposed project represents extensive proposed construction and existing work, which was completed without the benefit of proper permits. The existing walkway and gravel areas required clearing within very close proximity to wetlands soon after the 2017 ZBA approved work had been completed and received a certificate of occupancy. The existing walkway required clearing within 4.5 feet of wetlands to the south. Prior to that disturbance, the vegetated buffer to wetlands was established from the edge of the existing decking up to and throughout the flagged wetlands. Similarly, the gravel area was constructed sometime between 2021, when the CO was issued, and 2022 aerial images. If portions of the application are approved, the planning department recommends that the stone walkway, which has already been removed from the project, the gravel area and associated clearing are removed and revegetated in order to reestablish the wetland buffer and dune land vegetation which has been cleared. The clearing on the southern end of the parcel is especially important to reestablish and maintain in order to provide as much of a buffer to these wetlands as practical. The applicant may want to consider offering the removal of some of the decking at the southern end of the parcel as mitigation for constructing additional decking and swimming pool at the northern end of the parcel. Any increase in the buffer and reduction of improved structures in close proximity to wetlands would be a significant improvement over the existing conditions. The proposed decking, while located in close proximity to wetlands, is mostly located in one of the more conforming locations available on the property, along with the proposed swimming pool. The proposed decking and pool are both located in an area that is currently improved with a gravel driveway. The north side of the existing residence is the most reasonable location for additional improvements, but the ZBA should discuss if any additional improvements are appropriate on such a constrained and already significantly improved parcel. The property is already improved with a 2,136 square foot residence located approximately 23 feet from wetlands, a very large residence considering its proximity to wetlands. It is reasonable to consider that the parcel is already improved beyond its constraints, and any increase in development in one location should be mitigated by removing structures elsewhere on the property. The board may want the applicant to address if the proposed decking and swimming pool will be able to be installed without clearing beyond the proposed clearing limits. The proposed pool and decking are located directly off the existing driveway in an area that is currently driveway, and may be possible to complete the work without undue disturbance, but the applicant should address how that will be completed and if it's reasonable to expect that to be achievable. As mitigation, the applicants are proposing to upgrade to a new IA sanitary system. The sanitary system is proposed to be located in the same relative location as the existing sanitary on the parcel, which is proposed to be set back 58 feet from wetlands to the south. The applicant should address if this is the best location available for the parcel, or if an upgrade, or if the proposed swimming pool is prohibitive to locating the sanitary system on the north side of the residence, which would provide a significantly better setback to wetlands. The proposed sanitary system location and location of the proposed swimming pool need to be addressed by the applicant in order to determine if the project meets the NRSP and variance standards. Relocating the sanitary system to the north side of the property would provide the best long-term improvements in the environmental conditions on the property, and any improvements that prevent the relocation likely do not meet the NRSP standards and would be poor long-term natural resources planning. The applicants are also proposing to establish a scenic easement over the wetlands and a slight buffer as additional mitigation. An easement should help to provide additional protections of the wetlands in perpetuity. However, the minimal buffer size limits the value of the easement. The proposed relocated AC units are minor structures located in close proximity to the existing improvements, and likely meet the NRSP and variance standards. Similarly, the proposed stairs to the existing roof deck are a minor change to the property over an existing deck and likely meet the required standards. The board will need to consider the proposed decking, swimming pool, sanitary location, existing gravel, and walkway carefully. These structures are more substantial changes to a constrained property and require careful review of the existing improvements and potential additional impacts. The proposed clearing also greatly reduces the amount of vegetation on the lot, which helps to mitigate runoff. Increasing clearing from 5,564 square feet at the time of the last certificate of occupancy to 8,117, and I'm not sure what the number is right now since the survey was updated, will have impacts on runoff and sediments entering into the wetlands on the property. During the last ZBA approval, the board required a revegetation of the area over the sanitary system in order to help reduce clearing on the property. The current proposal would eliminate some of that vegetation along with other vital buffers to the wetlands on a property which is counter to the ZBA's previous approvals and conditions. Some of the proposed structures may be reasonable candidates for meeting the NRSP and variance standards, but the board should discuss the potential impacts and how these impacts can be properly mitigated prior to rendering a determination on the application. The clearing on the parcel, location and size of the existing proposed improvements, the proposed sanitary system location are all significant considerations that influence the impacts the structures have on wetlands. The sanitary system is one of the biggest impacts that you have on wetlands on a property. Eliminating the best possible location for a sanitary system is counter to natural resources planning. An IA may be a better system of removing nitrogen, but there's still nitrogen coming out of a sanitary system, and increasing the distance between that nitrogen source and the wetlands is one of the best ways
In
we
your
have.
mind, where would the most beneficial location for the septic system be on this property?
The north side of the lot.
North side, and it's not going on the north side because of what?
I imagine setbacks that are required between the
Required because of the
sanitary
proposed
and
pool.
the swimming pool. It's a 20-foot setback between those. I imagine they probably can't fit it, would be my guess. And the Hirsch application was mentioned. This is the first time I'm hearing about it, and I didn't handle that application. I'm vaguely familiar with it. I don't think it's a reasonable comparison. I think the house on that application was significantly further than the house on this application is the wetlands. These impacts are cumulative. They're not just one-off. A swimming pool, yes, if the distances are comparable, you may be able to say they're comparable, but the house on that application was significantly further. I think the addition on that they got approved for was 80-something feet away, and the house in general wasn't much closer than that. This house is 23 feet away. Sanitary system is proposed to be 58 feet away. I don't think they're comparable applications. The structures should be viewed holistically on a property, not as one-off from one another. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Go ahead.
Tyler, can you, in the existing conditions memo, there's a survey from 2020. It's on the page before the 2017 determination. Could you put that survey up on the screen?
Sure.
And
do you know what is it part of? I'm sorry.
sorry, it's in the existing conditions memo,
Yeah.
and it's dated
CO survey?
8/31/2020. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's from the CO.
That's from the, right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just looking at this. So it's hard to read. It says clearing at the time. My eyes are,
You can see it in the existing conditions, there's a clearing line.
right. No, but I'm reading from the survey. The clearing noted existing at the time was, I think it says 5,384. It's hard to read.
The number I referenced.
What? Sorry. And the,
564, I believe.
sorry, say it again?
I think it's 5,564.
Okay, and then the current survey that we're looking at says existing clearing is 5,942, so that's increased somewhat, but when I look at what's cleared on the property now versus, so if you look at that pathway that sort of cuts a little diagonally across the front, obviously they've eliminated that, but they put in the little gravel walkway, but I think that everything to the south of that has been cleared. In fact, I actually put in, it wasn't in my field report, but there was a photo I even took back when I was doing the field report for 65 Jacqueline, and that, section on the front along Jacqueline towards the south, like even that looks like it's been cleared recently. So I'm just trying to reconcile how much clearing was there, sort of at that C of O, when Chairman Deline talked about the 2017, the clearing's up, and then on top of that now there's like almost another 2,000 square feet of clearing. So I'm just trying to,
Yeah, there certainly seems
all
like there's some
together.
clearing south of the gravel walkway, like on I would call the northeast of the wetlands. And they're proposing to revegetate where that stone walkway is, which would then reduce the clearing numbers.
but we're talking about the stone walkway and around the side and the back, not
Right,
the
the stone
gravel
walkway that they're
walkway.
proposing to remove
Right.
now.
Is the
Right.
gravel walk staying?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, you're recommending that the gravel walk off Jacqueline be removed? Is that one of the?
Right, well, yeah, and the stone walk, which was sort of.
Right, the stone walk,
All the walkways in general.
they've
yeah.
exceeded on that. What about the gravel in the back, which goes north from that?
Yeah, that as well, absolutely.
You're
That's-
talking about that one as well as the gravel walk? off
I think the
Jacqueline Drive?
gravel on the west side, if you want to say that, they call it that way. I think that's the one we focused on mostly. There was an existing walkway that had existed at the time of the last application. It's slightly different than what it was on the CO, same relative location. But the large, you could call it a bocce court because it looked like this was being used for, but it's really just a gravel area.
Right.
That was new, entirely new in the last couple of years. I think that one,
So you're recommending removal of that and the other gravel walk? Or
and the stone walkway on the.
stone walkway?
that goes around. Yeah, I think the gravel walk on the southeast side is, there was always something there. It's a little different than what was there previously. But certainly any clearing south of that should be remedied.
I do remember in 2016 also that used to have a U-shaped, well, I guess on the survey here, a U-shaped drive. And I believe the approvals had been for interior work only, and someone cleared out that whole thing. Seems to be a thing.
I'm still trying to add up, so, and forgive me, I'm not calibrating off of the new survey, which has a little bit less clearing than we've been working with all along. I'll take that into account separately, but the 2,000 square feet of additional clearing that was proposed, I'm trying to add up all the parts that are being cleared that add up to an extra 2,000 square feet.
Well, if you take a look in the condition, there was a revegetation plan on the existing condition. You can clearly see where that clearing line was.
No, I'm talking now what's proposed going forward. I'm looking at the survey, current survey, not the one we were handed tonight. And there's 2,000 proposed clearing, 8,017 versus existing clearing 5,942. So I'm just trying to figure out if I take all the parts that are being cleared, I'm not quite sure how we get to 2,000.
A large part of it is the sanitary system installation, which is now beach grass. So they were correct. This used to be a circular driveway, and the gravel that remains was part of that circular driveway. It was then made into a regular driveway with just simple walkways with the same gravel, and then revegetated, planted. But now we're going to have to clear that in order to install the sanitary system, and then we'll have to replant it.
Okay, so maybe that's what's confusing me, because I think about that sandy part in the front as being cleared. So you're saying that's not counted as cleared now, obviously going to be cleared temporarily to install the new sanitary. Then you're going to, you can really only revegetate that with grass. So I guess maybe the increase in clearing is maybe it's not as big as I think it is. If you're saying that the area over the current sanitary, that sandy part in front, you're saying that's not counted as cleared now?
Correct. It says beach vegetation on it, even though it's sandy.
Okay.
So I'm going to suggest that we hold this open. There's a few questions that have been brought up here that I would like to address. There may be some gravel areas that we're willing to give up. I would like to do a calculation or at least show what will be revegetated so that you'll see the number. And I believe, and I'm going to check with the engineers, that we can actually slide that sanitary system north and put it under the driveway. I'm almost positive. So we're going to attempt to do all of those before we get back to you. So that's probably going to take me a month.
Okay. We okay with that?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We'll give it to. All right, thank you. Can we have a motion then to keep the record open?
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. Is there anybody in the public would like to address this application?
Leave it on the public.
Is there anybody online?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I suggest the board, 4 weeks from today is July 2nd. I don't think we have a meeting. So can we pick July 9th? Is that better? It's 5 weeks. In case you need more time, I don't want the time to lapse on a night we don't have the meeting.
Plus the holidays.
Plus the holiday, yeah. Is that okay with the board?
That's
July
fine.
9th?
Yes.
Okay. All right, you ready for motion? Yeah. Okay, in the matter of Stuart, okay, now I'm going to do Stuart Leach, and Anna Meach, 71 Jacqueline Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-174-02-32. I make a motion to close the public hearing, but leave the record open, the written record open for, are we itemizing the things we're leaving it open for? No. Okay. Until July 9th, 2024.
Second.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next application is Sunshine Dunes LLC at 2016, 2020, and 2024 Montauk Highway. Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-130-2-8.2-8.3-8.4. Size and location is 320,205 square feet. That's 7.3 acres, approximately proposed total. Located at 2016, 2020, and 2024 Montauk Highway in Amagansett. The description is to merge 3 single and separate lots and construct a 10,503 square foot, 1 and 2-story residence with 6,319 square foot of terraces and decks, including roof decks, a swimming pool, sanitary system, gravel driveway with security gate, and 4-foot footpath to the beach on a property containing freshwater wetlands, barrier dunes, secondary dunes, and beach vegetation. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the town code. Residential improvements have been proposed 136.9 feet from barrier dune crest. A 57.7-foot variance is required to allow the driveway gate to be installed and approximately 42.3 feet from the wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required. The residence and sanitary system have been proposed more than 200 feet from freshwater wetlands. The zoning district is A3 residence, velocity elevation 17, AE elevation 10, and X flood zones. The secret class is type 2, and council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavits of posting and service. Everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this application.
Thank you. Mrs.
Me again.
Miller.
Thank you. While Brian is pulling up, I'm going to say that I somewhat failed my fellow board members. I'm an intrepid person. I suited myself up. I doused myself in insect repellent, and I plunged in. And you'll see I only got so far before the ticks and the mosquitoes and everything. And then I thought there might have been a little bit of a cleared path in there. I couldn't find my way. So I have some early photos here, and then we'll go with Brian's, his existing condition aerials and photos to round it out. I don't know if anyone else was able to get in there. I tried from the Ocean Colony next door. I tried to go around the beach and come up, but I just couldn't make it in. So it was properly posted along 27 on the telephone pole. Next slide. Just for reference, this property is directly across from the Clam Bar. Next slide. And obviously this is, commercial and residential, all that. Okay, so I walk onto the property and right away, beautiful beach vegetation in bloom, sandy. Next slide. More. I can never get enough of this stuff. Next slide. Sorry, one more. Keep going. There's what do you call this lichen again? There's a special name for it, but there's
lichen.
Right. So there's lots of fields of this all over. Next slide, you'll see. Yeah, and then as you head back to the property, it's, there's a lot of different vegetation. There's 2 types of pines. Obviously, Brian talks about the Japanese invasive pines on the property. Keep going. You can see some pines are dead. I guess those might have been pitch pines, which beetle infested. The other pines are intact. One more. Next slide. More of the same. Next slide. Sort of more of the same. And by the way, I think those like Christmas tree looking ones on the side, I think that's probably the screening with Ocean Colony. I'm not sure, but that might be all I was able to get to. Oh yeah, after this, I bumped into, was there another one?
No, that's the last.
Yeah, I kind of came to, I couldn't find my way through. So Brian, maybe some of your shots from the, and I know that I guess the more precious vegetation is, further back. So I would love to go see it before the post-hearing decision. So if you have a good path, let me know.
Thank you. Rick?
Oh, I think are we going to look at Brian's?
Well, I think that's part of the presentation.
Okay, we'll wait for that.
He
Okay.
will probably refer to it.
Okay.
Good evening, Richard Whalen from Whalen Fowler PLLC on behalf of the applicant. The applicant's an LLC, but it's actually a person behind the LLC, and that's Steve Berkson. Steve with the glasses on. In addition to Steve, I'm going to accompanied by Prudence Kwan and West Chin. He's wearing glasses on top of his head. Both Prudence and West are with West's architectural firm, West Chin Architects. So they are the architects on the project. The property is currently vegetated with maybe the most extensive Japanese black pine forest in the town. And it is kind of a maze. I guess last in fall of 2022. But I didn't bring any photographs with me. So, but yeah, it's kind of difficult to find your way, and you have to kind of wind around between the pine trees. And obviously it's fronted by a primary dune and a very beautiful sandy ocean beach. So the application is to build, first of all, there are 4 lots here owned by the current owner. The northwesterly lot is not part of the current application. Nothing is proposed to happen there now. The 2 oceanfront lots and the northeasterly lot, which total combined, and this is the full lot area, are about 7.35 acres. Those are all proposed as part of the application to be combined or merged into 1 lot. So when completed, the property would be the property that we're talking about tonight would be a single parcel of 7.35 acres or zoning lot area, which excludes everything from the dune crest line to the ocean, as well as the wetlands, as well as the driveway easement. Even that is about 4.8 acres. So we're merging 3 buildable lots. The applicant is not proposing any variances except one, and that was mentioned in the hearing notice. That is for the driveway gate. The driveway gate will be a simple steel bar gate to obviously inhibit access to the property from anyone who doesn't have a right to be there. And will be, even the posts are only 4 feet tall. There's a detail in the materials you have, so the gate does not require architectural review board approval. That's 42 feet or so, I think, from the wetlands. And that's the only structure on the property that would require variance, a wetland variance. So the house itself is proposed to be 10,503 square feet, 2 stories. There's a swimming pool. The swimming pool is about 14 by 54 feet, which is 756 square feet, not particularly large. There are decking and terraces totaling some 6,319 square feet. Bear in mind that the decking and terraces, which are basically almost all on the roof of either the first or the second story of the building, the only exception is a kind of rock garden just south of the building and outside the kind of a family room on the first floor. Those are the only outdoor spaces on the property that you can, really kind of enjoy the outdoors unless you walk down to the beach. So there's obviously no lawn, no sod, no play areas other than the decks and the patios. So as I said, those total a little over 6,000 square feet. There is also a proposed unimproved pathway to get to the beach. There'll be an IA OWTS septic system that would be located east of the house. We've provided on the plan, we're showing on the plan areas that would be used for, that would be disturbed during the course of construction. We've kind of built that in to show that, where areas are going to be needed to have construction vehicles parked and construction materials stored and so forth. The house is within a CHA area. I mean, the property includes a part of the state CHA or coastal erosion hazard area, but everything is, of course, all of the improvements other than the unimproved pathway are all north of the CHA line. We do have a state permit, not a CHA permit, because we're outside CHA jurisdiction, but we do have a tidal wetlands permit from New York State. We've had that for, I think, over a year. At the end of the day, is that the line, to say there's an aerial, Brian can pull that up. There was an arrow that shows, pull that, there's a West Chin Architects aerial that things are, that's overlaid on. So there is, if you are able to see the yellow line on that, which hugs very closely to the house itself, and obviously then follows the driveway, that would be the total clearing at the end of the project. Despite the fact this is almost 7.5 acres in size, total finished clearing will be about a half an acre, 21,550 square feet. We have a revegetation plan by James Grimes. Jim Grimes uses beach grass, some bearberry actually, and shrubs including bayberry, beech plum, eastern red cedar, shadbush, and he's actually proposing 6 American holly trees. The application was, we just made some slight amendments a week ago, submitted materials to you last Tuesday. I'd like to just identify those maybe for your notes so you know what the latest plans are. The latest survey is by Saskis, dated May 22nd. Everything is 2024, of course. The aerial site plan that Brian has brought up, that's by West Chin Architects. That's dated May 28th, 2024. I think that was the date of our submission. The floor and elevation plans, the latest floor and elevation plans, those actually go back to December 18, 2023, and were revised on May 28, 2024. The sanitary design is by Edward Armis Engineering. That was revised May 22nd, 2024. The James Grimes landscape plan is dated May 23rd, 2024, and there is a revised construction protocol dated May 28th, 2024. This project has had a fairly long gestation. There was an architect involved before West Chin Architects. In the course of the application, I met with the various architects with Brian, I believe 3 times, I think 3 times. Brian gave us a lot of his time. Each of those meetings were like 45 minutes to an hour meetings, and the project evolved in the course of that. Essentially, the earlier design, which I don't know, maybe in your file, so maybe you do have a copy of it. Originally, there was more disturbance on the west side and of the property and the northwest side of the currently proposed house. There's a very nice kind of back dune area at the western side of the property where there's kind of open sand, and then there's mixed in with bearberry and beech heather. And I know that it's an area that Brian, I know this because he expressed it, to us in person, an area that Brian really wanted to see, maintained, protected. So part of the design when West Chin took over was to move things eastward to de-emphasize any disturbance on that side of the property. Originally, the driveway and parking area wrapped around that side of the house. That was removed. And then last, we did have a proposed generator on that side of the house. And one of the things that was changed in this most recent submission was to take that generator and move it to the eastern end of the property, just past the proposed septic system. So the changes that were made in the recent submission to you were the shift of the generator to the eastern side. That leaves an undisturbed area west of the house to the west property line of more than 80 feet in depth. I think it's around 88 feet. So there'll be no disturbance at that far western end, and it will preserve some of that back dune area. The survey was also changed. There is a connection to second floor level, little almost like a hallway between the second story kind of master suite area and the next node to the west, which is the kitchen dining room area. That was omitted on an earlier survey, so it's shown today. It's always been included in GFA. The driveways around the house, particularly to the south, were pulled in closer to the structure. The house will be on pilings, and that is to minimize overall disturbance and to make sure that there's no risk of ground disturbance near the state CEH line. And then last but not least, the driveway was widened to 16 feet in width. That complies with the town zoning code requirement for driveway width beyond a certain length. That's in section 255-11-88, driveways, gates, and pillars. So let me just quickly address the proposed conditions of approval. So first of all, we don't really have any problems with any of the proposed conditions in the TAM. Number one, we did amend the construction protocol, has already been amended to contain 2 items that Brian mentions in the TAM. I think one of them, for example, was the retention of native soils on site for use in backfill and so forth. That's the construction protocol was already been amended to include that. I'd like clarification on 2 points from the board before we're done. One is the grant of scenic easement. Brian wrote that up and he talked about the timing of it. Basically, we'd like to get a building permit. Obviously, if we get approval from this board, we'd like to get an approval of building permit as soon as we can. We'd like the scenic easement to be conditioned to be, we'd like to be able to be applied for a building permit when the scenic easement has been approved by council to the ZBA, rather than after public hearing. And actually, Brian wrote it 2 different ways in the memo. And secondly, there is a moratorium that is proposed to protect piping plovers during I'm almost done. So during the nesting season, we would just like to clarify, it doesn't state that that applies only to outdoor construction activity. If outdoor, we understand outdoor activity would be included, but if the house is framed in and they're doing work inside, I just wanted to make sure that that is not covered by the moratorium. And in fact, prior planning department memos have stated that. And last but not least, presumably you want a large lot easement. That's actually not in the TAM, but we know that you would want that. The large lot easement is the document that would effectuate the merger of the 3 lots. That's a large lot scenic easement. That too would have to be accepted by the town board after public hearing. And so like the scenic easement and the declaration of covenants and restrictions and the driveway easement, we would like those things to be, when they've been approved by the board's council in writing by memo, we would like that to allow us to go and apply for a building permit, presuming, of course, that you approve the project. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Rick, one of the questions I have is, the construction protocol that we do have in the file is for an old project? Would you
No,
have-
it's been updated, it was updated last
So
week.
there's a new construction
Yes.
protocol in our
Yes, it's
file?
updated.
Okay, thank you.
One of my concerns on these types of projects, and I spent some time looking at it, is wanting to make sure that the contour of the existing dunescape remains after construction. Also, we want to maintain that character throughout the property. I did spend some time with proposed contours, and it does seem like you are attempting to maintain that. But I just want to make that as a point this evening to the architects, as that's a very important aspect of this.
Well, as I said, whatever soil is disturbed could be reused. Yeah, we're disturbing areas around the driveway coming in on one side.
And I see the proposed contours that are weaving that
Yeah,
and bringing
and
it back
actually, that's right. They
in.
do show the proposed
Yeah,
contours
they do.
on the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do show that.
It was also suggested in the TAM that the pathway to the ocean should follow the least resistance, whatever natural contours. That's the architect, that we would not be trying to climb over the highest part of the primary dune, that we would take advantage of the natural contours getting from the house to the ocean with any proposal.
I think it does.
I didn't look that closely to how they follow the contours. I mean, you're absolutely right. It would be dumb to go over the dune. So we show a proposed pathway in there. I will say I didn't look too closely to see what, I didn't look at against the
I
contours.
just echo what the chairman was saying, is that, yeah, I do think it's an effort's been made to do that, but that would be one of the conditions we would have to include in any kind of potential approval here.
Right.
If we do the minimum amount of damage to the primary dune, whenever
Understood.
walkway goes in.
Where is the scenic easement? I mean, you have two
well,
that existed already.
So there are two that go back to the
Right.
original subdivision of the property in the late 1970s. The one near the ocean is essentially worthless because it's only 100 feet wide. Brian has proposed a scenic easement from the south end of the CHA line all the way to the ocean.
Yeah.
And subject to, of course, the right to have a beach access path, we agree to that.
Okay, great.
so
That
this
was one of our
entire-
questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's very
Very
good.
good.
Speaking of easements, so if I understand the survey correctly, the southern lot line goes to the apparent high water mark. Aside from scenic easements, could anything like a passage easement be considered?
You mean along the ocean beach, for example?
For, public.
I'm pretty sure the
public
applicant's not
access
going to try
across.
blocking public beach access. That would not be wise.
Just asking.
Yeah, we're not a concern.
Just to be clear, as far as whatever other disturbance beyond the structure itself, are there any hardened surfaces that are not in contact with the house? You're saying that the decks that we're talking about and terraces are incorporated in the structure itself. Beyond that, I'm not quite clear. Is there any other?
There is I'll point to it.
Yeah. That area there, okay. Yeah, but there are a couple of cantilevers here, and the area under there will be vegetated.
There's a lot of cantilevering, actually, both on the north side. There are the full first story,
Right.
and then the second story is like 4 separate nodes. The architects call them volumes. The easternmost one, they're shown in red on there. The easternmost volume is basically the master suite. The second one, which is kind of to the north side of the building, is the dining kitchen area. The third one, which is a major cantilever to the north, is a bedroom area. And the southwestern one, western and southwestern, which also cantilevers to some degree, is also bedrooms. So two of those second floor areas, and I've had this conversation with Prudence Grun, they're going to use steel beams to cantilever those structures. So the only one that there'll be supporting posts under will be, I'll just point to again, the second volume from the east.
Right. Yeah. But the area under those.
That actually will have a driveway going under it, so one reason to have support over it.
But the area under those cantilevers will reflect the natural contours and be also planted out.
The plan is to leave that natural. Hopefully it won't be disturbed, because they should be able to do that work without even touching the ground. But if they do touch the ground, that would have to be restored.
Richard, Tim, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Tim was talking about possibly moving it more to the east. Would you have a comment on that?
Yes, because that is something that came up, in the conversations with Brian. The topography goes down as you move east. The architects looked at this. If we were to shift this further to the east, we would need height variances. If we maintain the same level, we would need a height variance for the building because, there's a drop in elevation as you go to the east. So we don't consider it practical to go any farther east.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Good. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
Right.
How are you, Brian?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Brian Frank for the Planning Department.
Brian, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So I think as Rick had mentioned, these four properties, or three of these four properties, or all four properties, made up a minor subdivision that was filed in 1982. It established the two lots adjacent to the basically a rectangular property with two lots adjacent to Montauk Highway, two flag lots with a center strip access that you could see the somewhat of the remnants of on the plan, running down the middle of the lot to two flag lots along the ocean. That subdivision established scenic easement along the highway, presumably for more visual purposes than anything else. I don't think the wetlands were identified at the time, and in 1982, the definition of what a wetland was different than what it is today. And then a scenic easement along the ocean front, along what I presume was the dune crest at the time. This is all part of the Napeague stretch, and Napeague is an isthmus that connects Montauk to Amagansett. And basically, in its overwhelming majority of Napeague is composed of either dune land or wetlands. The wetlands occur when the elevations are low enough to be close enough to the true water table. There's not a lot of, or any that I know of, perched water in this area. These are true groundwater fed wetlands. And when the elevations rise high enough, you get dune land. Especially on the ocean side, you get habitats that are shaped by aeolian or wind-driven processes. That's what shapes the mosaic of vegetation communities, the different plant species, the bare sandy spots, the cladonia lichens that showed up in Member Meering's photos, as well as the other dune heath species that are really adapted to being sandblasted, baked in the sun, and droughty conditions, conditions that really kill the competition. Plants like bearberry, beech heather, and a host of other plants are specialists in adapting to for a variety of reasons. It's pretty apparent, and I have this in the existing conditions history memo. You can take a look at the, our GIS aerials don't have the best resolution prior to 2001. So I generally don't use them going earlier than that if I can avoid it. But I do have a comparison of 2001 to 2023. And you can see the change in the vegetation there. And a lot of that is the proliferation of the Japanese black pine. It's an Asiatic pine. It was introduced in the 50s because it does well here. It's a it's native to the Japanese coast. It does well here. It was used here for a variety of purposes. Long before the southern pine beetle became a scourge here, the turpentine beetle was a bit of a plague on black pines, and they reach a certain size, and they usually get infested and die at some point. But this property really shows how its proliferation is a very slow and quiet degradation of a pristine habitat. And I think that's most evident, and we should all find a way to invoke Phil Gamble's name more often at zoning board meetings, the ZBA goat still, there's no denying it. Because in a photo that I have in the file there, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'm standing in the same spot looking north from the dune crest that Phil Gamble stood in basically 40 years earlier, looking north.
Wow.
And you can see the difference in the vegetation. And from other photos in that old 88 file, 85 file, you can see that the majority of the property is just a carpet of bearberry. And if the property was had less of the black pine now, the conservation properties of the lot would be even greater. The areas of the highest quality dune land happen to be closer to the ocean, and that's in part because it's a little harsher there. It's probably a little bit harder for the black pine to establish itself as it is when you get farther north away from a little bit more harsher conditions closer to the ocean. So Rick is correct. We met a number of times to discuss what the conservation parameters of a lot like this should be. As Rick had mentioned, this isn't a property that requires dimensional variances, notwithstanding the one for the driveway gate. So compliance with the natural resource special permit standards in dune land areas is a qualitative assessment of how much disturbance is appropriate. And there are examples, dozens of examples throughout Napeague, whether you want to take a look at stuff on Cranberry Hole Road or Shipwreck or Whalers, of residential construction of various scale and efforts that the zoning board has made, and even the planning board in areas that went through subdivisions, to limit clearing, establish scenic and conservation easements over wetlands and prominent dune features at the time, to try to allow development commensurate with the value of the property and balance that against retaining as much of that natural character as possible. So it's not a hard number like, hey, you hit 100 feet from a wetland, you meet the setback. It's black and white like the goal line on a football field. This is a little bit more, a lot more qualitative. So the zoning board applies the natural resource special permit standards that are in 255, 551, and the general standards of 540. There is no way to develop the lot responsibly without going into the pristine area of the dune. That the best portion of the dune happens to be on the best habitat on the property happens to be on the two oceanfront properties. As you go north and east, you get into lot, I think that one is 8.3 for some reason. That one is peppered with some freshwater wetlands. And then 8.1 is very heavily dominated by the black pine. I was struck by how prominent the black pine was when I did the wetland flagging, and was just shocked at how its canopy, it ends up dominating the landscape. It takes away the sun. It makes it changes the soil composition by through the shade and moisture, favors other species. It just is what it is. It's kind of like I said, a slow moving and quiet degradation of the habitat. I do just want to run through some of the mitigation, and I think Rick has done a good job summarizing a lot of that for any project that gets approved here. We don't often recommend that the project limiting fence location be located by a surveyor, but in areas where you really want to minimize the clearing and you want to make sure that the areas that cleared are only the areas that are authorized for that, we do, and this is an appropriate location to have that clearing boundary staked in the field by a licensed land surveyor to make sure that the 4-foot safety fencing and wire reinforced silt mesh is placed in the approved locations. The applicant has offered the use of hay bales in addition to the wire reinforced silt mesh. I don't have an objection to that. It's a little bit of belt and suspenders. I do think that can be limited to just areas along the northern clearing boundary where the wetlands are to the north. Sand as a substrate is heavy. It doesn't move far and fast like mud or silt. It doesn't get suspended that easy. So comparatively, the risk of sedimentation is low unless you're on very steep slopes or you have a moving water to really carry it long distances. So I think if I don't object to its use, but I think it could be limited to just areas along the northern clearing boundary. You definitely don't need it along the southern half where, you really have the intent to limit disturbance south of the approved construction to protect the habitat. The risk of sedimentation there is very low and the wire reinforced fence is fine. Rick has already spoken to an enlargement of the conservation easement to extend up to the seaward boundary of the coastal erosion hazard area boundary. The house is proposed about 140 feet, I think, from the dune crest. And that added area is what keeps them out of CHA jurisdiction with the DEC. But that area between the primary dune crest and the CHA boundary is also part of the most pristine habitat of the property and is worthy of that level of conservation. The re-veg plan is excellent. I don't know I didn't really see a difference very much in the plant materials that are being used between the December plan that I referenced in the TAM and the one that was submitted at the end of May. They seem similar. Maybe the only difference is that Grimes did include an illustration of that, safety and sediment fence together, but the species selection looks identical, and even at a glance, the distribution looks similar, if not identical.
Right. I think the only change you made was reflect the movement of the generator.
Okay, no, I didn't catch that. Thank you. And through observation of these jobs, the planning department has found that retaining these dune land soils does encourage the colonization of these disturbed areas by the stuff that's not commercially available. The lichens, the pinweeds, the earth stars, a variety of those dune heath plants. There's a symbiosis between a mycorrhizal fungus that helps, that gets nutrients from the plants, and the plants get moisture from actually that's vice versa, from the fungus. And that symbiosis is what contributes to a recovery of this system. So we have seen, I have seen revegetations that were more sparse with that excavated soil put back on top, and have seen a lot of the stuff from the surrounding area, the native stuff from around the area, colonize that area fairly rapidly. When you bring in fill from an outside source, that's when you get weed seeds. That's when you get olives. That's when you get spotted knapweed. That's when you get spurges. And that's, nobody wants any more invasive species. Yeah, we're stuck with the black pine. That stinks, but certainly we don't want to introduce anything else that would degrade the quality of the habitat. The no construction window for the nesting shorebirds was a condition of the DEC permit. We mirrored one similar in the TAM. We were going to do that anyway. The dates that we use are usually a little bit different. I think they start a little earlier and end a little bit earlier. We also have a provision in there that nesting colonial and even solitary shorebird nesting locations are variable from year to year. They don't always, least-term colonies and piping plover nests don't necessarily set up shop in the exact location. There's a provision here that allows that window to be lifted if there are no nests that are established within 500 feet of the property, and I think that's an appropriate relief to provide. I don't see how interior work impacts nesting shorebirds. This is still a pretty good distance from the beach, although it is within 500 feet of the beach, and that's probably why the DEC included the permit condition. And since terns and plovers are either state or federally threatened or endangered, it's a warranted conservation measure. The footpath presumably takes the path of least resistance. The area, the dune is a little bit dynamic. So, the topography on the survey is a bit of a snapshot. It's chasing a moving target. So if there is an opportunity to go out and you field stake a better path of least resistance, any 4-foot wide footpath that, gets to the ocean, that makes sense, that doesn't unnecessarily go over highs, and why would you want to do that if you're walking to the beach, would be a reasonable permit parameter for this board to consider. There is, I would like, if Rick Cannon and the team is here, I would like to confirm that there's no dewatering that would be required for any of the foundation work, any of the grade beams that might be part of the foundation plan. You presume that's, anyway, I have seen jobs where that wasn't, one recently where it wasn't spelled out specifically, and it was necessary based on their plan, and it would have been better if it was identified at the front end and avoided. So I'd like to give the applicant's team an opportunity to address that now. That's kind of a summary of the environmental conditions and the recommendations that the planning department has. If I can answer any questions from any of the members, I'll do my best.
Well, this is really a question I should have asked when Rick was up, but I was planning on asking after you're done, and I'll ask you now. And that is, there are going to be pilings here. I'm assuming there's going to be some piling caps. There's going to be some grade beams. There's going to be something to pick up these point loads. The architects can answer that. That's going to require a fair amount of excavation. During that, they get refilled back in to bury the piling caps and the grade beams. That's just a standard procedure. During that time, that material has to be removed. Where is it getting removed to? You've already addressed the point that we want those soils put back where they came from, so that any soil that's taken off, is it going to off-site? Do we have a spot large enough for the kind of excavation for this long building? Am I wrong, Roy? Have you seen that in the protocol? I did not.
I did not see the protocol.
See the sand.
I'm
Without a
going through it
foundation
now.
plan or a piling plan, I'm not exactly sure. I went through their drawings. I don't see
It
that.
addresses a lot. It says description of materials stored on site.
Yeah, I thought the materials were construction
materials.
materials rather than, so I'm just saying that.
There are he's covering maintenance and stormwater controls too, which I would think, I was going to ask a question is for you or anybody, is there a SWIP requirement here?
Under 1 acre.
Under 1 acre? Okay.
Anyways, just backing up what you've said about materials not leaving the site, and especially if it's a large number. I've been part of projects like this where a large amount of material leaves, that material has to come back. What provision is there to allow to make sure we get those soils back and not replacement soils or whatever else? Or can it be stored on site? Right now, I don't see a clearing area that will allow for that amount of material to go. But that's really more of a technical question about the structural plan here. I'm not quite sure exactly, because I couldn't see it in a foundation plan, how much cut and fill, how much excavation is going to take place in order to install the pilings. So maybe we can ask that of Rick when he comes back up. Anything else? No?
Is the path to the beach, is it just going to be a sand path? Is it going to be a rollout? I don't believe it's actual structure or decking. What is it,
There's no structure proposed in the application. Right now, it's a sand path. I don't mind being on record as saying that if the applicant had decided to put a rollout within a location like that, the planning department wouldn't have an objection to that. I find those structures, I've seen a lot of them. I find them innocuous and compatible. Sometimes it does run afoul of CHA regulations. The DEC does have a preference for fixed, elevated structures, and I think that there's a place for that. I just don't think it's universally the best fit.
And then just back on the Japanese pine, You said that it will sort of continue to spread, so I'm not saying that like it's a requirement of approval, but like how does a good steward manage that when they have that on the property going forward?
You cut it down, and you do it in a way that doesn't disturb the stuff around it. I was, black pine doesn't spread by seed as quickly and grow as quickly as other invasive species do. So I didn't, personally, and I've obviously seen it the entire time I've been working for East Hampton, you don't think of it like the honeysuckles or the olives as being as much of a scourge, but ecologically its impact is pretty significant, and I have some documentation of that effect. It's not really practical to tie it to for mitigation for a project like this.
I just was curious.
If the applicant decided, hey, we're interested in using our driveway when it's done, and maybe we want to come and see you in ways that we can, knock it back, at least cut it down to the stump at grade to get the sunlight there to dry it out and get a little bit of a recovery. I think that's open to that. Most of that pine is on lot in the northwest corner on lot 8.1. And, there may be a time in the future to consider that. It's reasonable.
Thank you, Brian.
But 8.1 is not part of this one at all.
Correct, except for the fact that the driveway has to meander on, there is a driveway easement proposed on 8.1, but that is proposed to remain a single and separate building lot.
Any other questions?
No, good.
No, thank you. Rick, is there anybody in the public who would like to address this application? Matt, anybody on the phone?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Come on up, Rick. Rick, it doesn't, I was looking through the protocol. The protocol doesn't seem to address, I think it has a good point, the handling of native soils.
Yeah, I don't,
And
well, first of all, Richard
storage and
Whalen.
reuse of native soils. So I'm wondering if that should be modified.
All right, I'll identify myself. Richard Whalen, attorney again for the applicant. So the amount of cut and fill
It's very minimal.
is very little.
Yeah.
We have to be we're in an AE 10 zone, got to go 2 feet above that per state building code. So the grade beams are basically just cutting across the very surface of the dune land area where the house will go. So there's very little cut involved. We do show an area along the driveway coming in. We indicate that's where vehicles would park and so forth. I imagine materials would be stored there. And I just confirmed this in talking with Prudence that we don't expect much in the way of material that will have to be stored anywhere. The only things that are really going to be penetrating into the ground the only things that could touch groundwater is the very feet of the pilings. Those will presumably penetrate groundwater. And the IA unit itself will sit about, I think, 1 foot into groundwater, which is permissible under the health department regulations. Those are the only structures that would be in or even near groundwater. Are leaching galleys, or we're using galleys here for the septic. They're at least 3 feet above proposed groundwater. So we don't expect much material to be removed. I think there is language we can buttress it if you want, but there is some language in the construction protocol that says that all excavated disturbed materials will be retained and reused on site.
Okay.
So if you want anything additional on that, we'd be happy to provide that, but that is the intention.
Yeah, just without the foundation plan, was there one, I'm sorry, the architect, maybe there's one I haven't seen?
I didn't see it either. I know I was gonna
Piling
ask you.
and foundation plan? Did you grade beam plan?
Oh, that's right, because you haven't done, so they haven't done a full foundation plan because they've never had a geotechnical report because they can't get an engineer on the property to assess the soils. We can't get access to the property without now going and getting an NRSP. So we don't have, even though I would imagine they're going to find sand. I guess there could be some differences in sand. I don't know. So there is no full geotechnical report, and therefore they don't have a foundation.
Okay, so the main concern really is about the soils, is all I'm saying. So if there were 2 foot by 2 foot grade beams, it would require dropping the elevation of the existing area by a couple of feet. That could add up to quite a bit of material by the time you go the length of the building and the locations that have to be addressed. That material has to make its way back on the site when we're done. So if
Or
the
be stored on
protocols,
site.
Or not leave the site. The idea was not to leave the
the
site.
protocols can cover a guarantee that says that those materials will be retained, then the technical side of what the grade beams look like is not necessary for us.
Right.
That's the only thing driving it. Driving it is how much cut is there going to be in order to install whatever is the future foundation plan for the project.
Is that something you'd like to address or no?
Anyway, Rick, this is really about the material and not about the structure. We're not
Yeah, I'm just
challenging
trying
the
to
structure.
determine
We're
how
talking about
much.
what's happening to the material.
Yeah.
That's the main concern.
Okay. So my understanding is there would not be much material, but yes, you can make it a condition of the approval that we have to store that on site. Again, I don't know that we need to change anything about the parameters of disturbed areas because I don't think we're going to have enough material to worry about. Let me just, some of the other questions. Right now, as Brian indicated, we're only proposing the sand path. Brian and I, we did have that discussion during one of our meetings with Brian about whether or not to put a rollout thing there. As you know, the DEC and the zoning board have long been on different pages in terms of beach access, walkways. You prefer them to be low and inconspicuous. The DEC proposes them to be 4 feet up in the air. So that's one of the reasons we didn't get into this, because we didn't want to get into an internecine fight with the DEC. So all we're proposing right now is a sand path. Trying to think what else. I think there was at least one other question you had. Don't remember what it was. Well, let's just wrap up by saying this. First of all, so the driveway, the original subdivision going back, Brian said 1982, the original driveway to serve the 4 lots, it would have been 4 lots, would have come basically through a central wetland on the property. We're swinging around to the west, as you can see on the plan. I think we stay about 42 feet away from that wetland. That does encroach upon that northeasterly lot. We're fine, we're accepting that. But the driveway axis will swing through the northeasterly lot to get down here. I think the 2 things I would say most notable about the project, first of all, and this is something that Brian brought up, the house is about, if you look at the survey, we're roughly staying about 140 feet away from the dune crest. There's one point at the southwest corner where we have a portion of the cantilever that's like 136 feet, but the town code required setback in this area from the dune crest is 100 feet. We're about 140 feet away. And the other thing I think that's really notable about this is that when all is said and done on a property of 7.35 acres, we will have a ½ acre of clearing. Now, I will note, I don't think that figure includes the portion of the driveway that goes through the neighboring lot, but that doesn't add a lot in terms of, the total clearing. So including the driveway, we're not going to be much over a ½ acre of clearing on this property, which I think is pretty good.
And then just, I'm sorry.
No, go.
I just want to clarify. So we're not going to have the foundation plan, the piling plan prior to our making a decision? Or, because it sounds like it's a little far away?
Yeah,
or?
they haven't done one yet because they haven't gotten an engineer in there to do a proper test of the soil.
Right.
Structural bearing.
Just for note, Terry just pointed this out, that the protocol does address the soil. It said rough grading, under rough grading, the dune soils excavated for the approved structures shall be retained on site and used for backfill and top dressing to facilitate the retention of duneland character. So I think that's adequate wording for me.
Okay.
This is a spectacular piece of property. Sometimes I liken or refer to these locations as our Yosemite.
Yeah.
And some of these dunes out here, I think are as spectacular as El Capitan and Half Dome. So
I've been on the dune crest here. It's pretty spectacular.
it is. It's a special. You have a special piece of property here. Please take care of it.
Notice the pun on lichen? Get it?
Lichen. I was like that. No pun
Nice
intended,
pun.
right? Or pun intended. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just looking for hold on, my agenda with get the agenda with the tax map. Thank you. Okay, it's in my pile somewhere here. Okay, in the matter of Sunshine Dunes LLC, 2016, 2020, and 24 Montauk Highway, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-130-2, -8.2, 8.3, and 8.4. I make a motion to close the public hearing and the record.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
I forgot to mention,
Oh.
we are including any of the water. That was the question that you asked.
Any what?
We're not doing any, there's no dewatering involved. That was-
Oh, no, you wouldn't
No,
need,
that's
you
on
wouldn't need
record.
to. You wouldn't
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
in this
all right.
case. I know that.
Thank you.
The building, is that the only one?
Yes. For the St. James.
Very good. All right, I'm good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. All right, this papers just fly away.
I don't need it. So we go into, let's see, we have no post-hearing decisions. We have other decisions, and that's Denson Michael at 414 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk. Suffolk Tax Map number 300-22-1.3.1, and that's to request the record to open the record until May 31st. Until May 31st, to submit new septic plans. Didn't we do this?
We did this last week, I thought, or last meeting, I guess.
I think we did this.
Yeah,
Well, to reopen the record to accept,
to leave the record
Right.
open. Explain that.
Before they were able.
I thought we did it 2 weeks ago and just caught
But I
it.
thought
No?
we did it. We did, it was another one we did?
no, we just got another one. We did just get another one. You sent, it was sent, I think Jocelyn.
But
Right, we're
keeping the
past-
record open until May 31st doesn't make sense.
It was basically prior to that, but we didn't have.
So what would be the,
Well, can we?
Okay, so I think we should, we
Well, you
open the
just
hearing and shut the
approve
hearing
it,
just to
yeah.
receive the septic plan.
Right, exactly.
Just so you're making a,
It's just a procedural.
Can we have a request to open the record?
Okay, I will make a motion to open the record on, for Michael Denson, 414 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, tax map 300-22-1-3.1.
Second.
Okay.
I concur.
And then a request to close it.
oh, I'm sorry, concur.
I concur.
All right, and to accept the new plans, which we did receive. And now I make a motion for Michael Denson at 414 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, tax map 300-22-1-3.1 to close the public record.
Second,
Second.
concur.
I concur.
Okay, concur. Thank you. Next, we have our minutes of approval of May 21st.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from May 21st, 2024 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
I just had one quick question when I read them. I'm sorry. No, I actually read the minutes. It says for all the resolutions that we accepted, it said that we approved them as written.
Yeah.
And I thought there was one, I thought it was 163, where we approved it as written, plus we had,
As amended?
yeah, we amended it. I can't remember which one. So I just wanted
you're
to,
right, and it may have been, there might have been two that we amended.
that's what I was thinking. But anyway, so I just wanted to point that out. I have the rest of the minutes.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What do you think, Samantha?
So
Do you,
which two?
I'm pretty sure
Samantha?
one was Santoro 163, Atlantic. I think we
Yes.
still had to re-clarify some things that
Yes.
were written, and we resolved it at the, I don't remember. I didn't go back and rewatch I should have gone back and rewatched it, but
why don't we do this? You want to make a motion to
Table it.
adopt the minutes as amended, and I will
Yes.
just amend them to add the word as amended?
That is
Kind
the
of
way to do it.
Okay.
sounds crazy, but I'm going.
No. Procedurally,
So-
it's perfect.
We're going to approve the minutes as amended.
Yes. And I'm going to go back and add the word as amended in the
Mhm.
resolution.
Okay.
So it's clear.
okay.
Okay, so let me reword
Okay,
that.
doing that again?
Yeah, let me do it again. Make a motion to approve the minutes from the amended minutes from May 21st, 2024, the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. All right, we have the resolutions. We have Terry Smith, 93 Isle of Wight Road in Springs, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-23-2-24. Denise?
Yes. This application was the purpose of this application was to reconstruct an existing swimming pool, retaining wall and fencing, existing covered back porch and decking, and existing pool decking as a patio, and to construct approximately 225 square feet of new decking, a 45 square foot addition to the residence, new windows, doors, roof, interior renovations, generator, reconfigured driveways, stairs, clearing and revegetation, and to install sanitary system within jurisdiction of tidal wetlands. This application is Terry Smith, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-23-2-24, and it's 93 Isle of Wight Road. This was an approval of 4-0. Member Johan was not present. And during one of the conditions of approval that was, I have read the determination and it's very well written. Thank you, Jameson. One of the conditions of, well, actually it's in the text of the decision, was that the owner had agreed to remove stone pavers listed as steps on the survey that go down to the water. That would not only be dangerous to walk on, but could get dislodged and end up in the creek. So they agreed to replace the stone pavers with a wood-like structure that would be approved by the planning department. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the determination of Terry Smith as written.
Second?
Concur.
You can, oh, yes. That's
you.
right, Ed, you aren't.
Next, we have Tourmalet LLC at 250 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-87-3-4. This was a modification.
Yeah, well, it was just described to us as a slight change,
Right.
an architectural change. It was not going to change the footprint. As a matter of fact, it decreased the coverage slightly. We all agreed that it was not a major ask, and we thought that we had no problem approving it. So it was a 5-0.
No, actually, dissented.
I was recused.
Dissented.
Was there-
You were
No,
I was
3-0.
recused.
No, it's actually
And then
3-0.
co-chaired,
I
Savarese dissented.
I got it completely
Vice
wrong.
Chair
Let me go back.
recused.
It was a 3-1 approval with the chair being recused. I say that to you.
Yes.
Yes, of course. All right, let me find it for you.
Okay.
There you go.
Then in the matter of Tourmalet LLC, 250 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-87-3-4, I'd like to make a motion to accept the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Abstain. Thank you.
Oh, we've got
No, we have Conti.
Conti, yeah.
Next,
One
we
more.
have Todd Conti of 116 Sycamore Drive in East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-39-9-36. Board members, this was a 7-inch pool variance, setback variance, that we considered to be de minimis and unanimous approval. So with that, I make a motion to adopt a resolution of Todd Conti at 116 Sycamore Drive, East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-39-9-36 is written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you. And I think that wraps it up, guys. Vice Chair.
Oh, really? Okay. I would like to make a motion, sorry, Sari doesn't understand. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, June 4th, 2024
At
at
9:07.
9:07.
I'll second.
Concur.
Concur.